Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Co-optional Podcast.
Welcome to my weeb den.
Indeed, we are in the weeb den. We can't leave. A den of weebs.
Nope.
Yeah.
You said no. Look, this could have happened in your room. I gave you the opportunity.
It's physically impossible.
For it to happen.
I do not agree. It's
so
physically.
much
It's bigger than this. It's not physically impossible.
The desk though is
make
your
it
desk
work.
is like a nice desk. Mine has a corner that prevents us from crowding 3 people behind it.
I guess that's true. It would be very difficult to
It'd
like
be very
scooch your
difficult.
desk around.
Your desk is made for friendship. My desk is made for seclusion.
I see. Your
Yeah.
desk is made for you to be like a.
It's a hidey
an
hole to keep away from you. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah.
Got it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think this is probably the 3rd time we've done the show from the weeb den. We have a slightly better setup this time. We have 2 microphones. There's one over there, promise. Oh yeah. So this show always sounds a bit weird because we're never used to being in the same room and never used to having the microphones have to actually think about that. You know,
Yeah.
But no, it'll be fine. Yeah, we're gonna do a slightly shorter show today. Jesse has very important things to do with YouTube.
Oh, babe.
Yes.
Oh,
Well, congratulations on getting YouTube Red money. Very much, very well done.
Yeah, getting the money. Not me. It ain't me getting the money. Shout out to every other person involved. It ain't me, though.
Indeed. I'm talking mostly about Blizzcon, of course, today on the show. Our sponsor for the show today is the one and only Squarespace. So we'll be improving our ad later. I'm sure that will go really well. Can't wait. But before we start the show, we're going to get slightly serious for maybe a minute or two before we get into the goofs and stuff. Of course, the US election is tomorrow. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
If you are able to vote, please go and do that. We're not going to tell you who to vote for. We're not going to get into all that bullshit, but I think it's probably safe to say it's one of the most important elections in our lifetime. What's going to happen afterwards is going to affect a lot of people, one way or the other. And we're not just talking about the presidency, we're talking about things like congressional elections. There are a lot of people up for vote this time, and even voting locally is super important. And there are, issues that affect some of us. For instance, marijuana legalization is on the ballot in 9 states, to the point where if it does go through, that Obama himself said that's going to change federal policy most likely because they don't have a choice anymore.
For real, though, thanks, Obama.
Indeed.
Like, I mean it, though. Thanks.
I'm glad, if he finally mentioned that. But, that's a more of a big deal. That's not just like, I want to smoke weed. It's like, that has a lot of medicinal uses. For me in particular, I'll just say it straight up. It's illegal in North Carolina, and CBD oil in particular is very, very helpful for people who are going through chemotherapy. It's helpful for kids who are suffering seizures. There are a lot of applications, and it's blocked, in our state. And that's the sort of thing, that's just one of many issues that is really important to a lot of people, and you can genuinely make a difference on it by going out and voting tomorrow. Yeah. And I'm not going to judge you for who you vote for. I just want you to vote. I just don't want you to sit at home doing nothing, because we've seen what happens when people do that. Bad things can happen. So, if you are available to vote in the United States tomorrow, or you've done so already, of course, via early voting, great. Just go vote. Seriously, go vote.
Yeah, there are tons of measures in every state that you can vote on that can make some big changes. Do your research, figure out what you want to do, what you want to vote for.
Yeah, more so than like any other year. I think this is a year when your vote matters. It genuinely does. A lot of states are up for grabs that wouldn't have been otherwise because this is such a different election. So, there's no such thing as a safe state at this point, and there's no such thing as my vote doesn't matter. It does. It really does. So, go do it. Please, go vote.
Don't be apathetic.
Yeah, because you just take the A away from apathetic, and what does that spell?
Hold on. I got this one. No, I'm kidding. Pathetic.
Indeed. Don't do that. Don't be pathetic, please. Go do your civic duty or whatever.
We still got time. We still got time for jokes. Just, go vote, dum-dums. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Go vote first, and we'll joke later. Cool. All right, we got that out of the way. Just wanted to make sure that we said that. We have a bit of a following and an audience and an influence. We do have some level of responsibility to at least encourage people to do cool shit. So, let's talk about some cool shit. Because we were at Blizzcon. At Dodger, your first ever Blizzcon?
No, this was my third.
Third, yes. You don't go there all that often, but you...
No. I go on the years when either a lot of, friends that I haven't seen in a while are going to be there, or when I think that something really cool is going to happen.
So what was that like this year for
I was
you?
gonna say,
Oh, yeah.
What was
this
that
year
like?
wound up not being. Look, a lot of people were like, "Something Diablo's gonna happen. I know it." And
I mean, they weren't wrong.
You mean
It's
this?
just that-
You mean this guy right here?
we got necromancers, which I'm excited about. They're fun to play, but
It's. I think people were certainly hoping for a big expansion announcement, and they didn't get it, but they did get a fairly significant chunk of content, because it's not just the class being added alone is a big deal, you know. Games like that, when it comes to their content, a class is content. It's major content. It changes the way that you play the game. Even if you're not that guy, if you're grouping with a guy that is, that changes the way that you fight. That gives you more tools to play with. It changes your experience. But they are also adding a new dungeon, which I believe is Diablo 1 themed for the anniversary.
yes. And also, along with Necromancer, there's a bunch of other stuff that's all going to come in like a pack that you have to buy. You don't just get Necromancer, you have to buy it.
There's 2 new character slots. There is going to be they're redoing Greater Rifts. They're doing a bunch of different stuff, and this all goes to the idea that right now Diablo 3 is awesome, and it sucks that its initial launch was pretty crap.
So bad.
It was.
And
there's
a lot
no
of
doubt
people
about that.
wrote it off then, but now they're putting a lot of work into it, and I'm all I can say is, having pestered them, I did an interview with the devs at BlizzCon and was like, next year, what's going on? What you got? Because everything they're talking about, the Diablo 1 retro, like you go back to Diablo 1, there's going to be a portal that you go through and you go back, and you can redo all of that. That's in January, but it's only for the month, and then will be every January every year from now on.
Oh, okay.
Which means, at least in their mind, they're going to continue Diablo 3 for a very long time.
Sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a sign of development support. It's also an interesting sign that the last couple of years, Blizzard has sort of been a very monolithic, old-school developer, right? Where they've done things in a very specific way. When everyone else stopped doing expansions, they kept doing expansion packs, because that was the way they did it. And I'm talking about premium level, $40 to $50 expansion packs that no other company was doing, because they changed to the more sort of mobile, nimble DLC model. And these expansion packs were chock full of content and things like that. And now, sort of for the first time, we saw it with StarCraft a bit earlier with the Nova mission packs, that they're showing a bit more flexibility. They're willing to make less content for less money and give people the option to go for that. I don't hate that, really. I think that the issue with it is that you've got to do it on a more regular basis.
Right.
Things like the Nova mission packs. I think the third and final mission pack is on its way. And
December 1st, I think,
yeah,
is the
and,
launch date.
and there's no announcements or kind of plans, as far as we know, for more stuff like that. So if you're going down that particular business model, I think what you need to do is convince people, look, there's going to be regular content drops, premium content drops for a reasonable price, the pricing being super important. And
we don't know how much this pack will cost, do we?
I imagine it would be something very much along the lines of the Nova DLC.
probably 10, 15, I think.
But that doesn't come until later, like March-ish, they said. So
Yeah.
you get, no matter what, for free, the Diablo 1 in January. March, April, something like that, you're going to have the Necromancer. And then they were like, but there's more stuff coming in 2017. I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And they were like, more things. I was like, was that like an expansion? And they're like, more things. So at least they have a plan of what they're going to do with Diablo for the next year, at least.
Yeah, it's always good to put a roadmap out with stuff like that. I think the weird thing about stuff like season passes is, as much as they're kind of reviled by a lot of people, they are kind of a guarantee of support for at least a year. You say, oh, there's a season pass, there's going to be 4 big content drop DLCs. So when you buy a game that there will be more content coming, and that the game will at least be supported, at least for a year anyway. I think when you don't have that kind of information, there is a degree of uncertainty, and people are like, well, do I want to really keep investing my time in this game? Because I don't know if it's going to fizzle out at some point. And on PC in particular, the level of competition is so high that I think, like, over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of sort of discussion of like, oh, this game's going to be dead in a couple of months. This game doesn't have a community or a player base. People getting super paranoid about even buying into a game because, like, oh, well, is the player base big enough? All that kind of thing. There's been a lot of discussion, and we'll get into Infinite Warfare later around that, and with Titanfall 2, of how big is the community for that. And like, well, I don't want to buy in because, like, what happens, because if a community falls to a certain level, you're going to have difficulty finding games, and the matchmaking is going to go to hell because we don't use a fucking server system anymore, because I assume we've lost our damn minds.
I do feel like Blizzard has been experimenting a lot, though, with how to consistently put out content. Like speaking of seasons, the seasonal Diablo stuff, I think, has kept people coming back. Like,
Yes, yeah.
I know a lot of people who each season will be like, all right, time to make a new seasonal hardcore character, and then that dies, and you're like, all right, see y'all next season,
Yeah.
right? So that's been nice. And then with Hearthstone, it's been interesting seeing them sort of delineate between this is a big pack of new cards and this is an adventure.
Adventure, yes.
That sort of stuff. I do think that they're experimenting a lot to see what sort of things help with the longevity of a game, because they have so many like really good quality games in lots of different spaces to sort of play with.
Yeah, in a weird position now where they do have some free-to-play games in that portfolio, whereas that wasn't the case a few years ago. It was all premium games. So you can't necessarily use the same content development strategy for a free-to-play game as you can for a premium game. But regardless of that, the importance of regular content updates, even for premium games, has vastly increased. We saw the concern about Overwatch. You know, obviously we had Sombra drop, which we knew was eventually coming. Good lord, finally.
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 Everybody was like, she's gonna hack Blizzcon, and I mean, I guess she did.
I was so disappointed. I was hoping they go for like Morheim on stage, the whole BlizzCon gets hacked, and he's like, "Oh, what?" And then like Jeff Kaplan's hacking wires in the back. Like they made a video. That'd be so funny. And they were just like, make it a trailer.
Yeah.
They could have gone crazy with it.
They could have. And I think because of the way that they marketed that idea of like, she's gonna have BlizzCon, I think a lot of us did go above and beyond.
I wanted to be way crazier. I think it was cute
like,
how they did
BlizzCon
it.
is falling apart.
I think it's cute how they did. They did like a video of, oh yeah, we're gonna talk about the launch of Overwatch, and it's
doing
like,
pretty good.
but then that brings up other questions, Jeff. Why is she hacking the real world? Is this the real world? What's the real world, Jeff?
Nobody knows. It's a mystery. It will
Think
continue
about
to be
it.
a mystery.
The ARG's done now, right? Like, we're done.
I hope-
I hope
the
so.
ARG is done, right? Like,
I'm tired of that.
I hope it's over
God.
forever.
me too.
Yeah, it's they like overall for BlizzCon. Obviously, we'll keep diving in on more of the specifics. Like the feel for a lot of people was that this was going to be an off year. They often have that as an issue where one year it'll be major because there's either an expansion release or maybe a new game announcement or anything. This is a bit of an off year. There was an expansion announcement, of course, Hearthstone, the Mean Streets of Gadget-san, which looks like a really
Looks
great
fun.
theme. Yeah, there's some really cool cards in there. There's one in particular I love the idea of. It lets you create a custom spell.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they sort of went overboard with the discovery mechanics where you
Yes. Yeah, that's
you get-
exactly how I'd put it.
that
Overboard.
could and that card could be a problem on online play because it could drag out. I don't know how long, like, because people will be like, "Oh, I'm picking." It's like, come on.
Plus
My
your
God.
turns winding down, I imagine.
Yeah, you have to. Basically, it's a combination of cards. Like, I think the first choice is what the mana cost is. It's like either 1, 5, or 10 or something. And then based on what you pick, you then get like 2 or 3 more effects you can add from a choice of 3 each. So you sort of model them together, make your custom spell. Someone might spend a lot of time doing that, and you're just waiting for this guy to be done. Thankfully, it's a legendary, so you can only play it once most of the time. Most of the time. But that expansion certainly looks fun, but that's kind of what we said about the last one, and the meta right now for Hearthstone's boring a lot of people.
But I think that it'll be fun, this idea of having 3 factions and there being specific cards that only 3 classes can use. Like, I think that that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I do like that. That's actually quite similar to what goes on with Plants vs. Zombies Heroes, the way that they did the classes in that. They have a lot more classes in that game than Hearthstone has, but what they did was they had like groups, basically factions of cards, and the heroes were a mix of 2 of those in combination with a bunch of a set of unique power cards for that hero. I think that's a really cool way of doing things because maybe you like one aspect of a particular faction, but you want to mix it with something else. So finding a hero that lets you specifically do that is cool. And obviously Hearthstone up to this point has been very restrictive. And it's like, no, you can't have other class cards outside of very specific weird circumstances like Burgle or, or playing that Paladin card that nobody ever plays. That's like, you get a Paladin spell, So yeah, I like that idea. That is a good advancement. Whether or not it solves the problem that Hearthstone currently has with sort of the stagnant meta and the idea that 90% of the cards are still shit, I don't know if it's going to help that. I think a lot of us really like to enjoy Hearthstone on a casual basis, and even if we go on unranked, we get murdered by top meta net decks.
Yeah.
Right.
I was hoping more than expansion of cards, it was going to be another story mod they were going to add to it, another little where you could play with those gangs and get like your own little adventure based on who you chose. I was hoping for that. I was like, cards are cool.
That is what the trailer seemed to be,
Yeah.
right? Like there was going to be the story of 3 rival gangs, and like
I was down. I was like, oh damn, they're gonna make like a story mode, and they're gonna be a gadget in, and it's like, oh, this is cool. And it's like, look at these cards. I watched the panel. I was like, oh, it's just cards. Like, all right, that's cool, but it's not like the Hearthstone I love to play. I love to play the one where I'm like running around with Reno and we're finding treasures. And,
Yeah, you love the adventures.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And sort of the either or is, I suppose, cool because they both appeal to different kinds of player, and that's probably why they do the adventure expansion. But the problem with, I suppose, the metagame is that if you don't regularly change cards, which they have always been super unwilling to alter shitty cards, which for me is bizarre because it's a digital game. There's really no excuse.
They very rarely change cards. Yeah.
When it's to the point where it happens, it's actually a big deal. It's big news. But or smaller regular cards, just like we're going to release 3 new cards this week, or that kind of thing. Clash Royale's been doing really well with that lately. They've been like, we're going to release like a new card every week or so. And we're going to do stuff that makes it easier to get them, so you're not like so worried about it being random. And that's kept the meta fresh as a result. Whereas a lot of people have been complaining a lot about, oh god, well if you don't play Tempo Shaman or whatever, you're screwed. Shaman just rules the ladder or whatever. If you want to try something new, well, there's no mode to do that in outside of Tavern Brawl. Even if you do unranked, people are going to play the same decks. Even if you play Wild, it's just the same decks plus Dr. Boom, usually. I know it's kind of a weird expectation that you should be able to play suboptimally and still have fun, but without a mode to do that outside of just playing with friends, and that can be a problem. It's definitely made me less interested in the game.
Right.
And go for it.
No, you go.
I was saying, and as the price, as more and more expansions come out, it's a higher cost game to play.
Yeah, because they phase some of them out, and which makes sense to some degree. I understand why they do it. Like Magic has to do the same thing,
right?
Because otherwise the tournament scene can be really silly. But again, that focus on competitive, as we've said, can be a real albatross if you're not careful.
I was gonna say I do think that they're trying to sort of stop that in its tracks with Overwatch, with the arcade mode that they're adding.
Yes.
Just sort of giving people more opportunities to be like, here are a lot of ways that you can play this game and not have to worry about like ranked bullshit about any of that, right?
Yeah, I really like what I heard about that 3v3 elimination mode. That actually sounds like it might be up my alley. Weirdly enough, that sounds like, that sounds an awful lot like Battle Right, actually. I wonder if you've been looking at how well that's been doing and thinking, would people play a similar thing in Overwatch? Actually, yeah, I might.
There's also a 1v1. Jeff, I know you're watching.
Obviously.
Jeff does not watch this show. Come on.
Please keep the achievements for everything, because 1v1 against a very helpful fan is the only way I'm getting that Lucio wall kill achievement. It's the only way that's happening. I've tried so hard. Killing people on a wall is a skill I do not possess. And I want that achievement because I want the little spray in it. Just let me have it. 1v1. And I'm just gonna murder. I'll be like, just die 3 times really quick. Thank you. Yeah, that's all I want. That's all I'm gonna get those. I'm terrible. I'm not great at that game.
Yeah.
But by God, I want that achievement. I'm gonna cheat my way to doing it. 1v1. Thanks, Jeff.
I do love that the 1v1 makes it so that you don't get to choose anything. Like the game just chooses a character, and you're both that character, and then you have to try to like beat the other person. I think that's so funny.
That's how I'm getting those achievements. That's yeah.
Yeah, because I think today is when they're changing up quick play, right? They're making it so that you can't have multiples of the same hero on your team in quick play anymore.
Oh, they're finally doing that? Because I know they'd already done that in competitive, hadn't they?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why in arcade mode, there's the 6v6, like anything goes. Because that's sort of
the
what quick play used to be.
Yeah. I still don't, I think in casual, I still don't 100% agree with only 1 hero per team. I think 2 is a good limit, because there are certain cool strategies that double up on 1 hero that are not completely broken and interesting.
Well, I think their plan is to try and make quick play not casual. It's I want to be competitive, but I don't want to like.
Oh
have
yeah,
it
so
affect
have
my
that in the
career.
middle, and then have arcade, as
Arcade
the
is your
truly
casual
stuff.
mode,
Yeah.
which is all right. I'm fine with that, but boy, do I miss the days when quick play was just jump in and goof around.
Five,
and not,
five Winstons, one Lucio. Let's
and
go.
not as serious as it is now. You're like, why are you so serious? Go to the other one.
Yeah.
There's literally a competitive mode built, and they're like, yeah, but I can't test new abilities there. Mm-hmm. You can. Nothing's stopping you. First off, there's
sure
also a
can.
training mode. You can fight like NPCs and stuff. But you don't get the competitive nature. Like no one here's. I'm playing a character that I suck at, trying to learn abilities.
Yeah.
And having fun. Like you need to chill out. I got super issues with that, but whatever.
Yeah, and then there's the All Brawls, and I'm excited for All
Down.
Brawls.
All brawl.
I love all of the brawls that have happened, and I love the idea of just having a playlist of brawls where you just hop in there and it's like, here's a fucking weird thing.
Yeah.
All right, cool, you finished that. Here's another fucking weird thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think I love brawls in every game. Clash Royale's getting brawls, by the way.
Is it
Yeah,
really?
I think it just got its first one, which is pretty neat. But
That'd be
yeah,
awesome.
put a brawl in every game. It's change up the rule set, do all sorts of crazy stuff. StarCraft 2 continues to push that on the co-op. We actually had a literal on-stage show match doing what was basically a brawl.
Nice.
We got 2 teams of pro gamers together, and we said we're doing the BlizzCon co-op mutation challenge. Like, the devs are going to come up with a set of mutations that is basically undefeatable. You have to survive as long as possible, or we're not going to tell you, of course, what you're going to get hit by.
Right.
And they were playing co-op, I think Nova and Alarak were their 2 heroes they were using, and they had to fight against the most bizarre, insane shit. Like 30 seconds into the game, the death beam comes down onto the board and starts slowly moving around. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, that's bad, but not too bad, because at least it's over there. It won't bother us till later. Then shit starts to get bad, because they throw in Power Overwhelming, which is any unit can randomly cast any ability in the game. So they come up against the enemy units, and immediately the Psy Storm's coming down, there's fungal growth, the Seeker missiles coming out, which are nukes and stuff. And it's like, well, that's bad. But later on, they made it so that when you kill a unit, it spawns broodlings. Oh, the broodlings can also cast spells, by the way. Just
Of course.
just to screw with you even more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it got it was actually really surprisingly entertaining to watch 2 pro gamers suffer through that and try to beat the other guy's time. And
Right.
to the point where I'm like, wow, actually, like, what a cool little format. Not only is that really fun to play, and I'm really glad that they're continuing to develop that mode, and they've put a lot of focus on that mode, because I think people love the co-op in StarCraft 2. Mm-hmm. They announced the new commander, which is playable on the floor, Alexei Stukov. He's all about infested Terran units.
Okay.
A few years ago, they showed this cool concept art for the idea of an infested bunker, which grew legs and started walking across the map. They decided to put it in. That's one of his
Yes.
units. He has an infested bunker that can walk around on its own little legs, which I thought was really cool. And there's so many choices now to play that mode in, because you can use all of those mutators. You can set your own challenge up.
Right.
And you can pick random ones, and there's a weekly challenge that has new ones.
That's awesome.
And you think about that as a content retention method. You know, very similar to the way you were describing Diablo Seasons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a premium game that still keeps people interested in coming back on a week-to-week basis.
Right.
And that's what the Tavern Brawls do in Hearthstone, but to me, they're almost like not quite enough.
That's exactly how I feel.
You
They're
know.
just not enough.
Heroes of the Storm keeps trying to do, like, lots of feelers into other games things to keep people interested. I don't know whether, as a person who doesn't really play it, I don't know whether or not that's worked, but, like, right now they have the whole Oni Genji thing, and
Well, that's Blizzard in general.
That's Blizzard's strategy. It's you're not a Heroes of the Storm fan, you're a Blizzard fan, you know,
Right.
and we want you in that ecosystem.
right.
I'll be the first to admit that when I saw the Genji thing, I was like, all right, I'm in for a month of Heroes.
I guess I'll play some
Yeah.
Heroes of the Storm.
I came back when they added Braxis Holdout for
Yeah.
the StarCraft one, and I'm going to come back again because the Ragnaros.
Dude.
Yeah.
That we said this, we keep saying this when they do announcements like that. That's when we're like, this is actually what we wanted out of Heroes. Like, we want you to throw the rulebook out the window
Yeah.
with
Oh my
what
God.
characters you can make.
And the Blackwater Revenge map looks so great.
So the 2 new heroes they showed, Varian Rin is a hero that it starts out just like a melee character, but at a certain point, I don't remember if it was level 7 or what level it was, you eventually get to decide whether you want to have a shield or you want to have a two-handed sword or two swords.
Oh, that's cool.
And it changes the way you play this character.
Yeah.
So two swords, you're just wailing away. One sword, you're doing a lot of damage, you're slower. And the shield, you're now a tank. It's cool. I think he plays very much like how you would expect a MOBA character to play. Then I played Ragnaros and played him like 5 times in a row.
Tell people how Ragnaros works, because it's like,
Well,
it's a mind fuck.
Yeah,
Stuff,
so
right?
Ragnaros is the Rag you expect. There are no legs. It's exactly how you know and love Rag. And he rides a wave of lava. And he has Sulfuris that he uses. He has an ability that destroys people with Sulfuris. And you get a quest that I think is great that makes that stronger. Or you can choose to, just by killing little tiny like NPCs. And so eventually, by the end of the game, you have this like giant ass hammer you're just destroying everyone with. He rolls boulders. His alts are, one is it's a stun, but the other one is maybe my favorite alt in the game, and it's totally useless. Only idiots will be killed by it, but it looks amazing. A giant wave of lava comes down an entire lane, and if you're caught in it, you're murdered. So a smart person just runs in the jungle, but anything in that lane is just vaporized, and it looks great. But the big thing that makes him really fun is that you can take over any destroyed enemy base or your base and become this giant version of yourself and just start destroying everything. You have a giant, like, almost like 180 swing. You launch like fireballs from the sky, explosions, move under people. You basically have all the abilities he had during the fight when you fought Ragnaros.
Yes.
It's awesome. I was like, this is what I wanted. I played him way too much. I was in the press room just like, F it, I'm going back in. Let's see what we can do. I loved it. And I'm not ashamed to admit that, like, I shit on Blizz heroes all the time. I love this. I thought that character was on point. I was like, all right, you got me. I'll play. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty good game. I think that their business model for it is really pretty bad. I mean, honestly, that even I look at the skin costs and the hero costs and sort of raise an eyebrow. When I got back into it, I thought, maybe there's just a big pack I can buy to catch up with them. It's like, wow, that's actually a lot of money if I want to make sure I have access to all of that content.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can obviously earn heroes through play, but obviously that does take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mind paying like a lot for a good skin, especially if it has custom VO work and stuff. Great, that's fine. You want to do premium $15, $20 skin, sure. But some of the hero costs are a bit excessive,
Yeah.
I think. And that's hard to
Skin costs
stomach.
and all of it's the thing I think that's interesting with Blizzard is they can get away with a lot of overcharging based on how passionate the fan base is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that should always be addressed with Blizzard, because they do it for every one of their games. Because the fans are passionate, and they're like, a new mount, great, I'll fork over $25 for that. And it's
Right.
like, yeah, but that's like, all right, all right, sure. Like, and with Blizz Heroes, with Heroes of Storm, they did that to like the nth degree. Everything in that game is just a little bit more than it should be. Like, and you're just like, that, it doesn't feel right, but man, do I want that skin.
Right.
But boy, do I feel bad having just bought that, because it never is really quite worth the price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems to me almost like they should maybe look a little bit at what Dota did with giving like random item unlocks sometimes, and maybe do something with that. And maybe have like a chest that you open at the end of a game or after 5 games that contains something, kind of like Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's a chance it contains a new hero or like one of the lower level skins or something. Just it'll give people more of an impression that they're not being milked really hard for the content that's
Right.
there.
Well, and the thing I think that does that a lot is you get gold and you get experience and all that stuff, and you can use it to buy things, but then they sell stim packs, which makes it just go faster, which is a very MOBA kind of marketing thing that I'm thrilled Overwatch doesn't have. Overwatch is you play, and then you get packs.
Yep.
And there is no, like, you don't feel like, you may not be getting cheated out of money or and experience and gold in Heroes, but because there are stim packs, there's the impression that you are unless you buy those.
Right. Overwatch, yeah, there's no question. You just play.
And sometimes you get that next box faster than you think you will. You're just like, that was only 2 games. How the hell did I level up so quickly? And yet, people, that's why you see people who are like level 200, 300 in Overwatch because it's actually really easy. You just play and you level up. And
and that's all cosmetic, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they went down that route. I think it was very tempting to make Overwatch a freemium game, and people could still say, "Oh well, it is freemium." You know, you buy it up front, and they're still selling skins. But I'm still stick to the same mantra that selling cosmetics, even in a premium game, is fine. I don't have a problem with that. It's not a big deal as long as you have another way to get them. That's fine. But those boxes are often full of tat. There's no doubt. You know, like you open a box, it's like, oh great, 3 sprays and a voice line that I won't use. They could do better with that, certainly. But I don't find it a big deal.
I mean, you get boxes so fast in that game that eventually those tat pieces that
become
you get
gold.
Become gold, and then
that's
you get
how,
skins.
That's literally how I afforded almost everything in the Halloween.
Same,
patch.
yeah.
Same with Sam.
I had so much extra gold. I was like, all right, screw it.
Yeah, I mean, I bought a bunch of boxes like dupe, but you know, it's fine. Again, it's cosmetics, whatever. You know, it's mildly irksome. Whereas Heroes model is like, it's actual heroes. Okay, right. That's yeah. I mean, yes, you are a free to play game, but you know, we're judging it by different rules as a result. But still,
Right.
Especially when Heroes is doing well enough, but it's not dominant. I know that their esports scene has got a big boost now that they've announced that league. We can talk about that with Overwatch as well, actually. The two big esports announcements really were that both Heroes and Overwatch will have an official league structure going into 2017 with regional qualifiers and all that sort of thing. They want, for Overwatch in particular, they want regional teams, kind of like almost by city to some degree.
Is weird.
Here's the thing. I'm with you on this.
I think that's a weird model for
to me, it's either going to go two ways. It's going to offer a lot of opportunities to people who couldn't get into the team network and structure that exists now, which is for the most part who you know based, rather than skill, and it might change that. But at the same time, it feels like there's a lot of it's controlled.
Right.
I've been saying that about Blizzard and their esports forever. Like, they love to have this like sense of we control all of it. It's our IP, so we control what happens. And everyone sort of knows that like most esports happens naturally from the ground up, where people want to see more, and so the company's like, oh crap, we should probably do this. And Blizzard's the reverse. They're like, you want this as an esport, and we're gonna make it for you.
I mean,
and so it's either gonna be one of the two. Like, it's either gonna be a great opportunity for people. It could be both. It could be a great opportunity that's just very controlled. I don't know. I have no clue.
I mean, I think that in the big scheme of things, having leagues where esports takes itself as seriously as normal sports do is good.
That's true. But look, I've seen every vision of a post-apocalyptic future.
Sure.
And you know, follow me here. And you, Wednesday. I've seen to Wednesday. But every one of those, every time there's like a death race or some league of some sort, or like a doom ball or whatever, the evil corporation's the one who runs the league, not like a league official. My question is, who's the league official running your leagues? Because I don't think it should be anyone associated with like a Blizzard employee.
Right.
Like, it should be an person who's sort of outside of that structure, because once it's, I mean, you're basically making a corporate league at that point, which means that everything that happens in this is designed, and you know it'd be designed to, like, synergize and promote back on itself and do all that stuff that is not, no, you see all the scandals that happen with all the leagues we have now, and those already have all these checks and balances in place that are just straight up ignored.
Right.
So if those don't exist going into your league, like, I'm curious what this will mean, because it's huge. It's big news. I just don't know what any of it means.
Right.
I mean, we've seen what Riot did with LCS. Obviously, it was successful, but LCS still has a lot of problems in terms of the way that it works. And it's only very, very recently that they've been trying to pull back on some of those rules that have been seriously restricting what sponsors can do with that game. Because the teams are saying, look, if we get knocked out of the main LCS, top tier division, basically our sponsors get no exposure anymore. Like, the team essentially falls apart because you don't get salary. and they've also been super restrictive apparently with what these guys can do. I mean, we heard stories that they tried, I believe unsuccessfully, to get a team to take down a piece of promotional material for a sponsor on its own YouTube channel.
Yes.
An LCS team.
Yes.
They tried
What?
they tried to overreach their authority that far. And
That's ridiculous.
it's like, dude, you realize that these teams, the money there, what keeps them running on a month to month is not your fairly low salary. It's the sponsorship. Like,
Yep.
these are real companies. You can't
Right.
treat them as if you have full control over them. And Riot's been exercising a ton of control there. And there's always that risk that when you create something like the Overwatch League, that Blizzard tries to do the same thing with it.
And people in power always try to overreach. Always. And so you just got to be, like, someone has to be there to check them. And I think just, Blizzard ain't going to listen to me, but I think as a tip, I would say, you should have some sort of impartial, like a league president, supervisor, someone who is not an employee of your company,
Right.
be the one helping create the rules and the standards and things for your league, or else even the fact that your company's involved is going to bring up questions like, why did they do this? And what was this about? And it automatically seems a little seedy.
Do you think that there would be a benefit to that person having a history in traditional sports? Or do you think that would bring in just more like kind of weird past corruption?
I mean, I
I think
personally
have
wouldn't
some
care.
people.
Yeah, wouldn't
I think
care.
I'd create a team which has people from both traditional sports and from esports, and have them work together and put their heads together, because
Right.
there's always good ideas we can take from the more
Absolutely.
traditional sports scene, but then our scene is different. Esports is different and requires a different mindset. So get a group of there's some very talented people in this industry that could very easily advise and manage that. And ultimately the league has got to be open to third-party sponsorship. It's got to be sponsor friendly, and Blizzard in particular is, let's be honest, a very controlling company. They always have been, because they are one of those old school titans. They're a monolithic old company that's been very successful with a particular way of doing things. And it's only fairly recently in their history that they've really opened up to being more flexible and working with more third parties.
Yeah.
Everything was like internal. We've got to do everything with people we have under contract that we know. And this kind of thing, I'm hoping, is a sign that, again, they're continuing to open up. Let's get into that detail, actually. You were talking about, you found the whole idea of the regional teams to be very weird. Like, what do you think about that?
I just think that it's bizarre because it's not the sort of thing where you need to all be in the same place. So I think having it be regional to that extent is strange. It's a strange way to go about it.
I'm with you on this. I think that, most people know some of the best teams in the world are people from all over on a team. I think it'll be interesting to see statistically, like from a sciencey point of view, who the best players are and where they're at.
Right.
So a lot of people think like, oh, well, this area probably has a lot of good players, but it could be like in the middle of nowhere, there's 5 guys who are stone cold
It is
killers.
worth noting, by the way, that the preseason does involve a big draft of free agents, and similar to traditional sports, you can bring in people from outside that region. In fact,
okay.
that's kind of how it works, really. With traditional sports, where Kobe goes to a different state, different city, etc. Their plan with the city franchise system, is that team owners are supposed to be bidding for certain regions, like local regions, and the teams will be branded in a regional way to try and encourage not only inter-region competition, but also very partisan support. I live in the East Coast, or even like go as far down as I live in New York. I'm going to support the New York Overwatch team because and the same reason I support the New York Yankees or whatever.
Right.
That's their plan with it, because they've certainly seen, especially with their experience with StarCraft 2, that they ran into a situation where the best players were players that the casual fans didn't care about because they were the South Koreans.
Right.
But they wanted to cheer for their guys, but their guys couldn't get a look in because they were too far down the totem pole. They couldn't win. And that's been a problem for StarCraft for years, and they've been trying to fix that the last couple of years. So I think with this in particular, they wanted to start off from the perspective of, we need good regional competition because that's how we get the casuals to support those teams.
Right. That makes sense.
So it's not that. So they're bidding for a spot in certain regions is the idea. So a team would bid for, I want to be one of the Asian teams, or I want to be an American team, I guess is what they're saying.
Yeah, so once the bid's accepted, according to what I'm reading here, they would be guaranteed a spot within that regional league. So it would be, I believe regional would be like Americas, Europe, China, Korea, Asia Pacific, that kind of thing. And it would, I imagine they would either probably base their team house in, it's like, hey, we'll do New York or whatever. There'd probably be a requirement to recruit maybe a certain number of players from that area. And then maybe you can bring in a few free agents from outside and sort of build those hubs, I guess.
I think I would. I know they talk about bidding. I was hoping I'd see something about bidding on players.
Yes,
right.
that's in it
Because
too. Yeah, so the way the preseason works, and they want to make a big deal out of this, is in the preseason, there's a global talent pool. Basically, that's proven stars, and through the leaderboards, there'll be a list of everyone who isn't already signed will be a free agent. And then teams will publicly be signing them and drafting them and building rosters in a way that's very public, very open.
Very visual,
that very much like the way the NFL does their draft is huge deal, hugely visual. That's a big entertainment and sports event of the year. The draft. I assume they want to emulate that,
Right.
and have it less be behind closed doors. We're just going to put the team together. Have it be a very public bidding thing, and in doing that, you can build stars. You can make people care about certain players before they even start playing in the league.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm excited what that will do for players. I've always been a real stickler on the fact that I continually see it's young kids who this is 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, where it's like you are giving these years of your life to play this game, and after your time's over, either you made some cash and you came out a star, or you're back to square one.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you do now? So the idea that they're being bid on means at least they're going to make something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, and I'm hoping that we're going to see, outbids and, crazy draft. I'll trade you this and this. I want to see that aspect of it where these players who are the real stars, it's not the teams.
Yeah.
No.
It's the players. The players are the real stars, and I want to see those guys really become as much as I want to see people wear Tempo Storm things and Cloud9 things. I really want to see people with the shirt of a player.
Crusher 99.
Yes,
Big Crusher 99.
I want to see that, and I loved that trailer they made. I was like,
too.
I actually did. It was a bit cheese, but I got the point. Yeah.
Even they were and then people hated on them. I was like, this is the realest trailer
It got super dark.
Yeah.
We were all watching it backstage in the StarCraft area. And we were sort of giggling along with it a little bit, and then when it went super dark, when everything fell apart, and we were like, "Whoa, we identify with this!
Yeah.
This actually happened to most of the people in this room at some point."
And they were then you fight your ass back. This is some Rocky shit right here.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is exactly what people going into esports need to see. Yo, this isn't easy. None of this is easy. And even if you're good, you still might have a shitty time.
Yeah.
So
make
shout
them
out to
care.
them.
Yeah, make them care about the story behind the players. And I imagine that's also pretty savvy from them, because it does take a little bit of power away from the teams. If the players are the real assets and the real stars, then you don't get these big conglomerate teams with a lot of money behind them that then start to throw their weight around and try to get Blizzard to do things that they don't want to do. So I imagine there's a control aspect.
You mentioned the Yankees. I think that'll be interesting to see if there's a team that comes in we just have a lot of money, so we're just gonna dump money on people.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Part of me wants to hate that, but the other part of me is there's a reason why people love the Yankees and why people hate the Yankees.
Yeah.
And if you have a team like that who's the best players and they all have all this money, you're going to have people who love them, and they're going to be on that bandwagon, but you're also going to have everyone else who are
stories,
F those guys, and that's a good story.
You need a feeling. People need to have an opinion about these guys.
Absolutely.
And there's been so many movies made about sports underdog stories, like the big rich team gets beaten by the plucky underdog kind of thing. That's a great story. People love that shit. And that will work, I hope. I think it's a pretty good system. The issue with me is not the way they've set this up. The issue is that watching Overwatch is still really hard.
I tweeted out, and I think I might have been the only one. I was with Sohinki and a bunch of other, we were Malik, we were backstage watching Overwatch, and I was like, am I the only one who, when they are you're the POV of the character and you see someone red coming, I'm like, why aren't they shooting? Oh, because it's on their team.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy, but they were like, no, I have no problem with this. So it's like, okay, maybe I'm the only one.
It took me watching it for a while to be like, oh.
You spent a good time
There's a red and a
watching
blue
it
team.
there, yeah?
Yeah, I spent a good amount of time watching it. I thought that, man, it's super hype to watch people who are really good at Overwatch.
Those Genji players are disgusting.
Yeah.
I stand by
And
my
some
hatred for
maze,
Genji.
Some fucking on-point maze. I think that the Finland versus Spain game was my favorite. There was lots of just like team kill, team kill, team kill, and you're like, what's happening? It was very fun.
I just want to point out, anyone that thought that South Korea wasn't going to dumpster everybody in that tournament is delusional.
Yeah.
I heard so much about, Koreans aren't good at FPS. I mean, one, before Overwatch, you still weren't right, because they played the shit out of sudden attack, and they have it's a completely different game, but it's counter, hyphen strike. Completely different game, which is probably why CS never really got going over there, because of brand confusion.
Right.
But when Overwatch was launched, it took over the PC bang scene. And you've got to understand how people play in South Korea. A lot of them, they go to a PC bang, which is a big net cafe, to do a lot of their gaming. You know? And that means that whatever is the game du jour in the PC bangs defines the entire culture of the South Korean gaming scene at that time.
Right.
And for the last year and a bit, it's mostly been League of Legends. When Overwatch came out, most people stopped playing League in the PC bangs and started playing Overwatch. And that is a massive indicator that Korea is going to come fucking murder you in this game if it's been taken that seriously.
Yeah, it was a sight. Like it was like watching masters paint a beautiful they were just destroying you. Like you can't help but appreciate that these other teams are getting slaughtered.
Yeah.
And even then, even the bad teams weren't bad. It was like you saw things like that is a genius idea. I vividly remember losing my mind at a simple play, which literally they just put up a Maywall, and then a McCree went around to a little slot in the Maywall and did his ult so no one could see him behind the wall and killed the entire team. And I was like,
what?
That is the cheesiest, most genius thing I've ever seen. And it's one of those things you just don't think about when you're playing with your friends. Like, that's a really interesting, unique strategy. More than just Anna your characters and watch them go around and murder people. Right? Like, that's what everyone does. Like, all right, get our Anna in and, throw it all on Genji and call it a life.
Right.
Like, no, there's actually, really smart things you can do in this game that until you see it on a pro level, you're like, shut up.
Yeah, and that makes it more interesting. When I went to watch the E-League finals down in Atlanta in the TBS studio, really cool production. And I've got to give it to the Turner Broadcasting guys. They know how to put on a show. It looked great, and the crowd was super hype, and the staff, who were obviously kind of unfamiliar with the gaming stuff, it didn't matter because they recognize when they've got a good thing going, and there was no cringy shit. Outside of the seagull handshake, but that's now legendary rather than cringy.
Right.
And all the staff and the people they brought in from outside gaming still played it, very well and took it seriously and weren't being awkward and shaming people and mocking people. You person who's the host this year at BlizzCon that was being really awkward with the cosplayers?
The guy from Silicon Valley. I can't remember his name though.
Oh no.
Yeah, I feel. Here's the thing. He's a funny dude. I don't know that he's the right...
He wasn't the right host.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Whenever you get, nerdy stuff, and then you bring someone in from outside nerd culture who then decides the funniest thing to do is to take the piss out of it in not a good-natured way, then you've made the wrong call.
Yeah.
But with that said, I actually kind of feel for Blizzard, because where the hell are you going to find a comedian/host that can not only nail the actual making jokes bit? Trust me, it's hard. I don't want to fucking do that. So who are you gonna find to do that, who not only plays all your games but is famous on a level that everyone there knows this person? There's a lot of... So they're like, all right, well, you play games, all right, you're in.
It's I don't think they need one. Honestly, for stuff like the costume contest, it's such a big deal. Just get one that can do it well. They don't need to be famous. They're not the reason we're watching the costume contest.
I'll be honest, Blizzard has a lot of employees that could do the job.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
They have a lot of people who work there who could do it.
No doubt. And there are, people in the community that could easily do that job as well.
Cox and Crender.
There you go. Just you did a Q&A for them, and it went well, you know?
As well, I don't know that we could do it as well, but it would be... You could still hate on us, guys. But we wouldn't care. We wouldn't tweet about it.
Yeah. But sort of back to the Overwatch like viewing experience for a second. I spent a lot of time just looking at the kill feed, because that seemed like the easiest way to watch it, and it was fine when they spent a long time on one person's FPV, when they were just like, we're just gonna watch McCree for the next minute. Okay, cool. But then when they started jumping around, and particularly the whole, there's a team fight, so we're gonna have to zoom out from sort of a third-person camera standpoint, and then it just becomes a giant clusterfuck of ultimates.
I will say some of the third-person like top-down shots were really cool because you could see, especially I can't remember the damn name, the castle map, whatever that damn thing.
Follow.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. You know
Nice.
that one. Some of those shots, because they're jumping up and over and there's people running in, like some of that was beautiful. And sometimes you even got to see their setups. There was one when they were on King's Row where the Reaper just went under the statue and sat there. And because they were in third, you could just see his little red outline sitting there as this other team starts coming around the corner.
And that's the tension.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, he's going to on all these guys. And when it happens, you're like, how did no one know that was going to happen? That was amazing.
Yeah, the way that the Koreans are actually doing their Overwatch broadcasts is very much like that and kind of a bit more advanced. What they do, they've got a ton of observers, and each observer is assigned a specific area of the map, and they did analysis based on essentially heat mapping of where the engagements usually happen, so where the important parts are, and that guy has a fixed camera. So they've picked the best possible angle for a fight, and then they go along like Observer 1, Observer 2, Observer 3 as the team moves through the map with their very specific set camera locations. That makes it easier to watch. The ultimates are still an issue. I know they've made it less spammy now because they cut everything across the board. I still think in terms of visual busyness, Overwatch has issues. It's certainly not Battleborn bad, but it's still very, very colorful, and in the middle of a team fight, it's a bit of a clusterfuck. There's no doubt.
I'm glad that they're talking about redoing play of the game stuff. That they're sort of overhauling all of that and potentially having their engineers work on multiple like two-person play of the games, because there are lots of opportunities for that. I'm sure that that's a nightmare to try and program.
Yes.
But I'm glad that they're trying to sort that out, because play of the game has always had issues.
Yeah, it's. I think what they'll probably do with the obsing system, which already exists in other games, is instead of having 16 observers, what they'll do is you'll be able to set up virtual cameras in the map prior to starting it. So you basically set those cameras up, and they act just like real cameras would, and then you can like switch to camera 16, etc., etc. You already have them preset and pre-tested. But that's stuff that Overwatch had the same problem that Heroes of the Storm did at launch, where it's like, oh, we want to go real quick into esports, but we don't have any of the functionality to make it a watchable experience. Like, I remember the old interface for Heroes of the Storm when they first started trying to do esports. Like, there's no information here. I can't see shit. It took them years to get StarCraft into a state where it had enough info. And a lot of that actually came from a third-party modder saying, we're going to fix it. And then they took his ideas and also hired him, of course. And GameHeart, which is the name of that interface, is now the de facto and has been for esports for 3 years for them.
Right.
They need a similar thing, but of course with those games, the mod support there is no mod support. So the community can't fix it for this particular issue. That's something that Blizzard has to do.
I love like in football, they have that wire that goes the length of the field, and there's a camera that just goes back and forth on that wire.
Yeah.
Man, that'd be nice to have that the length of a map in Overwatch.
Yeah.
So it's one camera that just can move back and forth, they can cut to, that can get those shots going down as people are moving, rather than move from one camera that you can sort of follow the team as it goes through.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot to be done with that. But I don't think Overwatch will be a bad esport. I think it's got a lot of potential as an esport. Why not? Sure.
I think people want it.
It has a lot of potential as a lot of things. The article I read the other day that was like, people are pitching them like, please do Overwatch anything. Move, like Hollywood's just like, make stuff with this IP. I'm okay with everything involving Overwatch.
Right.
Give me more.
Yeah, totally. I think I'll wait until arcade mode comes in, and I'll come back and play a little bit. Yeah. I'm still a bit like, modes-wise, that game still has weak-ass modes. I'm sorry, it does. The game modes they're as generic and as dull as you can get. Like I really miss having games where the game modes are quite complex.
Yeah.
And I think the trend over the last few years is make the game mode as simple as possible and have the depth be in the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like it being the other way around. You know, I like maps with multiple objectives, side objectives, you know, power-ups and all that kind of thing.
Well, I'm cool with them starting this way, but I would love for them to, now that they have an established base of players and they have game modes that people, you know, like, then moving on to stuff that's a bit more complex and a bit more interesting would be really cool, because they know that people are still going to be playing the game because they already love the game in its simple form.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, we'll have a bit more on BlizzCon after the break, as well as the other games we've been playing this week. However, our sponsor for this week is, you guessed it, squarespace.com/co-optional.
Yeah.
Indeed. And we don't have an ad script for this week.
I have an ad script.
Do you?
Okay.
All right.
Watch this. Oh
Good.
my god, you ready
All
for this?
Yep.
Ready.
My body is ready. Let's do it.
Real talk. I do not know how to make websites at all. I
No.
lack any and all website
I mean,
ability.
you barely know how to make content as it is. You know?
I just throw sounds and video together and it comes out like a thing. And then I upload it and it doesn't even work then. But because I am like gonna try Squarespace, if you go to jessecox.com, it'll take you to a Squarespace page I made in like literally a couple of, maybe 2 hours. And it is super, it's like super jank, but it has
Hey, there you go.
It's beautiful.
it has a feed to my Twitter. It has all the podcasts. It has videos. It has Instagram. It has everything on there. And that was using all of the things they had, not knowing HTML or Java or none of that. I did it myself. This exists.
Look at that.
And so you can go there and it's like,
Even this idiot.
if I can do it, you can make something way better.
Even for 10% off your first order at squarespace.com/co-optional, consider this. For just $5 a month, you too could support a company that allows absolute incompetent morons like him to create content. Shouldn't everyone be able to create a website? Shouldn't that be accessible to those who are
I think it's one of our basic
impaired,
needs.
let's just
as
put it that
humans.
way, in some respect, whether it be due to, you know, talent impairment, a huge problem in this country. Talent impairment is a disease that there is no cure for, and we just have to live with that.
In the arms of
We have to live with it,
the angels.
and with a service like Squarespace, even him, who has never heard in his life what the word editing means, can create. They can have his own space, his own freedom on squarespace.com/co-optional. And is that not the most American thing of all? Is it not? He has a venue to exercise his First Amendment rights, despite having nothing worthwhile to say. All because of squarespace.com/co-optional. Literally any idiot can make a website. Head on over to squarespace.com/co-optional for 10% off your first order. And of course, order your domain name, because what would a website be without a stupid brand name to go with it? Go make your mark on the internet. God knows everybody else has. We'll be right back after the break. You're watching the Co-optional Podcast. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-optional Podcast. Shit just got real, as you can see. You demanded that I wear this sequiny hoodie.
You can't.
Holy
Not
shit,
really
it actually has like little
sequins.
jemmies on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can't
yes.
tell it via camera, but guys, this is legitimately the best thing I've ever seen anyone buy in my life.
We were at Disney yesterday, as you might imagine, and it was getting pretty cold. I hadn't brought my jacket, so like, could we quick run into a shop and get a jacket before the fireworks? And they had the Star Wars Rogue One brand new sequiny Death Star hoodies.
God, yes.
I was like, yes, there we go.
I love
I will
it.
spend far too much money on this, and of course you can't go wrong with that.
It also sounds like you did what I always do when I go to Disneyland, where I'm like,
You forget it's a desert?
it's hot out
Apparently,
here.
according
so
to them,
I'm
your
good.
mic is off. Is that true?
No.
Actually, it is. How did we lose your mic? Oh, the cable's unplugged.
Oh no!
Whoops.
Oops.
I guess I stepped on it. Hi.
There we
There we
go.
go. Problem solved. Problem solved.
Weren't me.
What I was gonna say is, it's super hot when you go there. And
Yeah.
You're like,
So you
I
don't
don't need
want
a
a jacket. No, I
Yeah.
don't want a jacket.
And then it hits a certain time of night where it becomes the desert and is very cold. And you're like, I guess I'm gonna buy a sweater
I'm gonna
because I need one or I'll die.
They know exactly how that works. They
I'm
have
be
plenty
real.
of
I'm
shops
be
for
real
very expensive
honest.
ones.
Real honest with everyone. The Disney. We went to I think California Adventure or whatever it is, where there's rocks that surround the outside, like different like mountains, that fake mountains they built. Because everything in the distance was fake. When I looked at the sky, it reminded me of Vegas, and that everything's a fake sky above you. Like when you go through all the different like Vegas casino areas, it's the fake sky.
And the malls and stuff.
I've
Yeah,
never
yeah,
been to
Sky.
Vegas,
Yeah.
but
And so,
that sounds terrifying.
I had this horrifying. I swear to God, I almost had like a panic attack. I had like a weird, uncanny valley moment.
Yeah.
We were walking towards this building. I think we're gonna go on Tower of Terror, and so we're going through the streets of this town that is a fake town with fake rocks in the background that look like fake mountains. And I looked up at the sky and I was like, I had a moment where I couldn't distinguish between the real. It was clearly the real sky. But because everything else was fake, I was like, oh no, this isn't good. I honestly had like a moment.
Yeah.
I was like, nope, this is why I don't have fun anymore. I was like, I can't do this.
It's too real.
Yeah, I was like,
Can't do it. All
You
right.
blame everything on the Uncanny Valley.
Of
I
course.
yeah.
Think. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we'll round up sort of what we're talking about with BlizzCon, and then we could talk about some other stuff. The StarCraft esports was probably the best it's ever been. I'll say that. They always have that incredible stage that if you've never seen it, do go watch the VOD so you could see what that stage does. They built it entirely out of... It's a ton of projectors, basically, over a frame that lets them change the stage and the screen into whatever they want.
Right.
And they do some awesome stuff. Every map has a different transition. So the whole stage will suddenly be covered in frost and ice and all that kind of thing. And when they do player intros, the Terran get like all their area of the screen is like mech plates come down from the side. The Zerg, it's like tentacles come out and spread all over their side of the screen. When they win, their whole side of the stage explodes in Baneling goo, which is
love it.
it is the most amazing. It may not be the most expensive, awesome stage in esports, but it's the best looking one. It, beyond the shadow of a doubt, it looks... They've done it for 3 years now, and it gets better every time. And we had an amazing finals. The right guy won, as far as we're concerned. You know, we had a real shot of seeing a non-Korean win. Then all the non-Koreans got dumpstered, which we probably should have expected to happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which,
Yeah, it was like a case of this guy, we had a historic moment the past couple of months where this guy whose username is Neeb, very intimidating, obviously.
Yes.
I think he changed it to Neeblet, which actually makes it even worse, but
It's so cute.
Yeah, he's from New York, and he's the first foreign player to ever win a major Korean tournament. He went to South Korea and he won the Casper Cup 2016 against really good competition. So there's a lot of hype behind him going into this event, but we'd always known him for stage fright. He's been trying to overcome that. He did great in the round of 16, where he was just in the studio. As soon as he got up on that stage, 3-0'd in 25 minutes.
Oh, poor guy.
Annihilated. Not even close.
I always wonder about that. It's a whole other level to be on a stage in front of so many people and have to still play your best.
It is.
That seems impossible to me.
Yes, it is a very, very big deal, and it intimidates a lot of players, both South Korean and otherwise. We see guys that do really well online do terrible in live environments. In this case, we did have a foreign player reach the semis. He did get dumpstered 3-0 in the semis, but he got there. He got there, and he's actually a guy who was not well known before this. He's technically the second, but I guess now the best Polish player in the scene. Poland's been always a pretty good scene for esports, so we've seen some good players come out of that. But he did really well. But the finals was awesome because even though it was again South Korean versus South Korean, one of the guys going into it is a very loved guy because he just won the major Korean tournament without a team, which has never been done.
Wow, interesting.
He literally did it solely by grinding online events for $50 each. The scene in Korea for a long time was you got into a Casper team house and all of your practice is secret. You don't go play online stuff because then other coaches can analyze what you do and pick it apart.
Right.
You only play in our official events. That's all you ever do, which of course means that they have no way to build a fan base. Like, they don't get out there, don't get exposed. And yet this guy said, call that. I don't need a team house. And yeah, I'm going to play in every online cup. I'm going to play in every small event.
Right.
And then he went and won the world championship off the back of that.
That's awesome.
Just by
That's
being
so cool.
that much better than everybody else. It didn't matter that people knew what he was going to do. They still couldn't stop it because he was
Right.
that good. It was awesome.
And that's, going back to when we were talking about Overwatch, that's my hope for the league, is that even if you have a super team, there's going to be one team of nobodies coming out of nowhere that just destroy.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to root for those guys, and that's what the story is, and that's where the excitement is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a great story. He's an awesome guy. He's pretty adorable, I think a lot of people think. Like, within an hour of him winning it, his picture on Twitter is him in his hotel room bed with the trophy right next
Aww.
to him. He tried to pick up the trophy first, realizing how heavy it was. He hugged it instead, and then on his second attempt got the trophy up because it's this massive fucking thing. So he was jumping around and just super happy, and it was obviously like, he is not a stoic person,
Right.
and that's good because people really connect with him and people really got behind him, and the quality of the finals was one of the highest level we've ever seen.
And man, I love the fact that you use the word stoic. Most esports players have that sort of stoic attitude, which I think is really funny because then every time they take esports photos, they have to look really tough and hardcore. Yeah, and it's like, but we don't know you that way, and you look ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have a player who's like, I like to have fun. So when you take those photos, you're like, that guy's enjoying the hell out of this.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And I got to do my event on the first day on the stage, which was awesome to be able to get to do that. Obviously, it competed with all the major shit. Like, it was competing with the costume contest, Hearthstone semis, I think, or quarters and Overwatch quarters and everything. So we had a small crowd of very passionate, loud people, which was great.
Good.
So that was awesome fun to do. Thanks to everyone that watched that. I know the online numbers for that were really awesome, which was great because half of our viewership is in Europe, and it was at like 3 a.m. for them, so we didn't expect a lot of people to watch, but they did. So, and we'll definitely be doing more of Kings in 2017. That I know for a fact. So that was awesome to do. I had a great experience with that, and all the guys backstage for StarCraft are super professional. Like, we're so fortunate, I think, to have like one of the best casting pools in the world. Like, for esports, I think we have the best one. Like, everyone up there is really good at their job, and they all bring different things to the table. And
Except that Jeff guy. What an
yeah,
asshole.
who's that guy?
what a
Yeah,
dick.
he keeps showing up.
I
Yeah.
was so excited that
Uninvited.
you were doing it with Jeff. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that was great. 'Cause the final, if you haven't seen, actually, yeah, I shouldn't spoil this because the VOD isn't up yet. Let's just say the final map, we got one bonus match in Shoutcraft Kings. The final map is something a bit unusual, and Jeff made that hilarious. So that was really great. I believe the VOD, if it's not up now, I think it's processing on YouTube right now. So you should be able to catch that on youtube.com/TotalBiscuit, which is going to show you the stage setup, show me being nervous as hell on a giant stage like that and all that kind of shit. But everyone did a great job, and, again, big thanks to all of them for making that happen, because they put a shit ton of work behind that, and they don't get recognition for it, and that sucks.
Yeah.
So they were all great to work with. That was a great experience. Outside of that, I didn't get to see a lot of the show, I'm going to be honest, because I was working a lot of it. We did get to watch some of the Heroes of the Storm finals, which was cool. Still a little tricky to watch that game. A lot going on, but it's not terrible. Like, it's not massive visual spam or anything. I think it's just down to, like, it's so back and forth because of the way that team leveling system works. Yeah, that it can be a bit weird. It's like, who's actually winning? It's not as clear.
The floor felt huge to me.
It did.
This year. It was much more packed with stuff.
And then they had an entire other area upstairs this year.
Yeah, I heard about that. I never got to visit the Dark Moon Fair. It was what you get it? You went up there, right? What was that all about?
So upstairs, on the third floor this year was not only a Hearthstone tavern where you go. They actually had a live band playing like all the Hearthstone tracks.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
sick.
And then they
It was
had
literally just a room to sit and play Hearthstone in.
yeah, it was super smoky and really like seedy looking. And people were in there just playing Hearthstone. I didn't know if you could actually play Hearthstone to get the card back. the Fireside card back.
Oh.
And I wondered how you would do that because I don't think you were hooking up your own account. So I was like, it would be cool if that was the case, but I didn't. I just walked in there and checked it out. And then the Darkmoon Fair was the same Darkmoon Fair they have every year, but just moved up to its entire separate different place.
Right.
So it was its own thing. So when you walked in, you're now in the fair, and they had the voice actor area and an area where you could meet all the writers and all the people who make all the books. And they had the pin trading area and the
Pin
area for
trading
the
apparently
bobbleheads.
was a bit of a serious business this year, I'm told.
Was it?
Yo, I went up there. So I had a lanyard for the last, like, I don't know, couple years. I mean, since they've been doing pins, I think it's year 3, filled with pins. And I was like, I don't collect pins. I don't want pins. So I went up there with my pins and the lanyard and was just like going around to people who had all these rows and rows of pins they were trading and rolled up bags of pins and I just started giving them to people. And I met one fan. I was like, boom, here, have my best pin. And people were like, that's the guy. That's the pin guy. And I was like, here, take my lanyard. I don't have any pins left. Like, it's serious. Pin collecting,
so
serious
funny.
business. And, for it, though, I got the one pin I did care about, which was, like, the bloodlust symbol. And I was like, I'll wear that, because that's cool as hell. But, like, I'm not, like, a pin dude. So, it's nice to see people passionate just about even the smallest things Blizzard, which, I'm sure they know that's their audience. So
If they don't by now, they should have figured it out.
Yeah.
This is the 10th BlizzCon, and really it's for what I think it's got a lot better over the last couple of years. But up to that point, for what you were paying to get for what was there was actually like kind of a premium, really.
Yeah.
And yet people still, it's sold out every time still because people we are that passionate about this particular set of games. And we know that the people we're going to meet there are going to be awesome, and we're going to have fun as a result.
Dude, your swag box was like legit this year too. So good.
That Stein is straight up maybe my favorite thing I've ever gotten at
Gorgeous.
BlizzCon. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody got a Stein. You got a little Hearthstone glass wiping thing.
You got a coaster.
You got a
like rubber
coaster.
yeah.
A little
dongler,
Baneling.
little Baneling dongler,
Yeah.
whatever it was. What else
Lots of
was
cool
there?
stuff.
Oh, and a giant inflatable Reinhardt hammer.
Yes.
That's what that was.
That looked, if you flipped it around, surprisingly like a crack pipe. I'm just saying, a lot of photos were about to be taken. I was like, ooh, I probably shouldn't do this. A lot of jokes were made, though.
Made a lot of goofs.
Yeah, it's an event that every year seems to get exponentially bigger and crazier. And to remember what the first one was like and how there was hardly anyone there.
But they had an inflatable climbing wall, Blackrock Mountain.
You could
actually
reach
quite
out.
silly.
You could reach out and like high five Metzen because the stage was so tiny.
Yeah.
Like it was a really small event, and then the next year it grew insanely. And by the time 2009's BlizzCon rolled around, that was like next level insanity.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's one of those things where
There's almost too much now for 2 days. Especially with all the tournament content.
And I someone after it was over asked me, and I didn't see Michelle Morrow's bit that she does for DirecTV, but at the end,
We watched that.
I think in the last little bit she was talking about, even she was like, man, it's almost too big for 2 days. And so this guy comes up to me, he's like, yo, is Michelle hinting it's going to be 3 days? And I was like, I don't know that I could physically handle 3 days of BlizzCon. Like, maybe it could be 3 days, but I don't think they'd ever make it that.
I actually do think they will go that way.
You think so?
I think it's got to that point with just because of their massive focus on esports and tournaments. Even that gives them a good reason to, because they're starting to see a crossover in Blizzard esports viewers between their games, and it's causing big problems for clashing. Obviously for StarCraft's still there despite maybe not making as much money for them. They take the esports side of that super seriously, and they give it the big arena, and they proved that was a good idea, because, again, we filled the thing, Anyone who's like, yeah, StarCraft's a dead game, it's like, right, cool, dead games don't fill arenas last time I checked.
Right.
So that is still a super big deal, but, of course, the problem is you could spend all day in the arena just watching StarCraft, and there's like, well, yeah, but I kind of want to watch the Hearthstone as well, and now they have the Overwatch here too. It's like, that is too much now.
That was the frustrating thing.
Yeah.
Because if you had the app, you could go on the app and look at the schedule, and it was like every single
The
competitive
overlap.
game was overlapping.
Massive amount of overlap. I experienced that firsthand with my event, big overlap. So I think 3 days is fine. You know, there is enough to do. Assuming you're in esports, anyway.
Yeah, I would say the only way I'd be really cool with 3 days if they actually didn't have an announcement, or actually did have an announcement. It wasn't like one of those years where it's like, it's a few small things. If they announced a new game, or they announced new expansion, or something that could get people...
It would have to be a big year, I think, for them to move to that.
Oh, yeah, like, one of those, we have something new for everything kind of years, where it takes it to the next level. Then I could see 3 days, because that's enough to get everything in.
Right.
But sometimes, even on day 2, I'm like, well, I kind of did everything I wanted to do. And so then you...
I didn't.
Then all you're doing is literally just watching tournaments, which is fine.
That's
but, like, you hit the point where you're just like, well, I've done everything I want to do, so let's just watch people play games.
That was mostly why Sam and I were like, we're kind of good with only doing one day.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
We knew that we could watch all of the tournament stuff on Twitch.
Yes, yeah, you could go back and watch the VODs and stuff like that. And, you know, the virtual ticket gives you access to that. I just think, like, especially in terms of panels, there are so many more panels they could easily do that people would happily just go and watch, you know?
Oh, chat, I think actually that's a smart point. The overlap does push people to get the virtual ticket.
But does it for the esports, though? Because all esports content is free. You don't need the virtual ticket for that. Yes, it is.
Well, it might, I mean, for the panels and stuff.
For the panels, yes. But for the esports content, though, no.
But if
That's
it's
all free.
online, then I imagine they're like, all right, well, people can go watch it later. It's interesting. I'm not sure what is in store. I know they said they're definitely making it bigger next year.
If they're making it bigger, they've got to go 3 days.
Which is insane.
That's a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that I heard about that, you probably heard more, but when they were alluding to how they're building a whole other hall.
What was that?
building.
Frank Pierce or someone mentioned that, yeah.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
Which, you know, I think this year's BlizzCon was fun. I think if you're looking for big announcements or
You
something,
didn't get them.
That was kind of a letdown. But going into it, I was like, this isn't going to be a big year.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
the
we all
feeling, the
knew it.
vibe you had going into it. If you follow anything Blizzard, you're like, well, what could they possibly announce? There's nothing.
No.
And when your big hype guy's gone, you're not going for like, let's replace the hype guy. You're going for, let's just have a year that we don't fuck this up.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
you know, because they ultimately they now have a lot of balls in the air when it comes to juggling these different properties, and they need to ensure that all of those are like, yes, we've got something for this. Yes, the development's continuing for this. If anything, I expected a bit more out of WoW, but we didn't see that. I was like,
They in the major like announcements at the beginning, they didn't announce stuff, but the WoW actual like what's coming in the future WoW panel, I mean, they pretty much said they were talking about 4 or 5 years down the road. They mentioned things that are coming out in 7.2. Every class gets its own special mount now, which is like, shout out to Shaman, we get to ride an elemental.
neat. All right.
Yeah, everything, they actually have a game plan going forward, and some of the stuff that I've been really concerned about, like, what is happening with X, Y, and Z, they're like, this is exactly what's happening with that, so it's not, it sucks they didn't have enough to include it in the main opening announcements, but at its own panel, there was a lot of stuff there where I was like, alright, that shit's cool, but it wasn't anything huge or major. It wasn't like, here's a new expansion.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were going to do that.
Yeah.
They just launched Legion, but, you know, that's just kind of the way it goes. The thing is, like, I'm sure they're in a situation where they want every single one of their current games to remain relevant.
Yes.
And they have a big fan base for them, which means that if you end up in a situation where you announce something that effectively replaces it, like, again, Diablo 4 or something like a remake of StarCraft Brood War or whatever, or, of course, you know, StarCraft 3 or Warcraft 4, then that's like torpedoing the existing game at that point, which you can see why they would want to try and avoid that until they absolutely have to.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything I mean, I watched some of Weird Al. Dude is spry for being as old as he is.
Yeah.
I absolutely
man.
hated the two people they had to do like the commentary.
Oh God, who
Like
was
in
that?
in between songs. I honestly don't
They-
know who the actors were.
They had people do commentary between songs.
Because he would change into costumes. Because Weird Al, you know, he's about costume changes.
Uh-huh.
And so in between songs, they had commentary. And the commentary was done like spoofy Hollywood commentary.
Oh.
But
Okay.
one of them was like, I'm Julian Assange's other like, it was so bizarre.
What?
I filmed some of it. It is truly a bizarre thing.
Let's make political jokes a couple of days before the most divisive election in history. That
It
sounds
was-
like, people love that, yeah.
And I think like it was a fallback. It was like a joke fallback. Everyone was like, well, I know these will land. But it's like, No, not to everybody. There's some people in your audience who may not be
those aren't
wanting
landing.
this. Yeah, it was weird. Like you watch, you're like, all right, that's Weird Al. I get it. I get what's happening. And then cut to like the most bizarre interviews you've ever. You're like, what is happening?
Oh, God.
And I don't know if it's supposed to be like it's weird because it's Weird Al, or if it was we don't know how to fill the time, so let's just goof. And
Yeah.
it was rough. I was like, all right, cool. Like,
Jesus.
yeah.
All right. Yeah. Don't do that in your concerts. No.
Yeah, we're there for the
Just bring
we're there for the
Metallica back
music.
and let them kick ass for an hour. That's fine. You know, you're never gonna have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think they know what they want to do for concerts and stuff like that, but every year they try to like, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I haven't been to a concert at BlizzCon in a while.
Yeah.
I just stand in the back. I'm like, well, that looks cool. All right.
Peace.
I mean, I'm
Fine.
not there for that. You know?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people aren't there for that.
Yeah.
But it's cool that they do it. Every now and again, their pick is a bit what. But last few years, they've been like, yeah, okay. I mean, you know, Metallica, great. And then just like, oh, Blink-182. Like, what? Offspring? They're still alive? What?
Yeah, look, they had a good solid run there when they were doing like, oh yeah, we're gonna have Foo Fighters on here, which was awesome.
That's, yeah, great choice.
Yeah, and the fact that they had Tenacious D with Dave Grohl as the drummer, like that
was great.
amazing.
Yeah.
Ozzy was cool. Metallica was great. Like they can nail it every once in a while. I feel like they've done one of those like, let's ask The Office, what bands do you listen to when you were like a kid?
There's
And
no
everyone's like,
questions a
Linkin
lot
Park.
of that in there. Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
God,
yeah.
Linkin
182.
Park for 2017.
Didn't they have Linkin Park?
Did they already have
I thought
Linkin
they
Park?
like I.
All right, I need to
Blink
double
182
check.
definitely. I
I
swear
don't
they
think
had
they've
Linkin
had
Park.
Linkin Park.
I think they had Linkin Park. It was 2 years ago, 1 year ago,
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They
2015.
did. What the fuck?
2015. Yeah,
Yep, I thought so. I had a feeling they
Oh,
did.
the year I didn't go.
yeah. Linkin Park was there. Blink 182. Tenacious D was my favorite one. I loved the hell out of that one because they were just silly and had a good time.
Yes. Well, I mean, nobody just liked them, you know. Even if you don't like their songs, they're still funny. So that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. So that was BlizzCon basically. You know, not exactly heavy on the announcements. There were a couple other things, but you know, the things like the StarCraft 2 war chests, but that's not, you know. There's going to be tons of
And
little
the
announcements
deep
here and there.
mind.
Yes, I mean, you know, I just think that's cool and actually like really important, but simultaneously probably don't like that's part of your opener because that's a real crowd cooler.
Yeah, I think people who were watching, me included, didn't entirely understand what the end game was.
No, because
Of Deep
he
Mind.
didn't
They
explain
didn't
that
explain
well.
it.
I don't think there is an end game personally. I think it's a cool idea.
Apocalypse,
in a cool
nuclear
context.
apocalypse.
But
Yeah, it was either on Twitter. It was either people going, "All right, cool. So you're trying to destroy the world. That's fine."
Mhm,
And
yeah.
then people saying, "Oh, this could have some really good like effects on medical and things like
Yes,
that."
there
And I
are
was
some
like,
real like
"But I don't-
applications. The
I
problem
don't
is they didn't communicate that part
Yeah.
well. It's like, why is this important to someone that doesn't even know what DeepMind is? You know, because it's cool that yes, we heard a few minutes about DeepMind playing Go.
Oh, cool! You're gonna teach
Yeah.
computers how to siege war.
Yeah, how to play video games.
I just want to say,
You're gonna teach them war strategy. That's fine.
I just want to point this out. Watson, the already very close to destroying us all AI,
Right.
just wrote a song.
Aw.
And now people are like, you can buy the song. I heard a commercial for it. I'm like, nope, this is too much.
Watson's learning.
Yeah, when they're writing songs, I'm out. I'm out. Robots shouldn't do that at all.
That's basically been pop music for the past 20 years anyway.
Hey-o,
Boardroom
get
full of
wrecked.
robots wrote it. Oh, edgy comedy right here. Yeah, so that was basically BlizzCon. Cheers, of course, to everyone that came down, said hi, who took photos with signing. As always, BlizzCon has a great crowd of really cool people.
Yeah.
I never hear of trouble at BlizzCon, really. Nothing major anyway.
That's one of the things that I think is really interesting is BlizzCon's pretty chill.
Yeah, it's very friendly. It's pretty much everybody. So, what else have we been playing this week, I suppose? What have we had time to play?
I've almost finished Owlboy.
Okay.
I played Owlboy too.
That game
Let's
is
hear about it.
beautiful.
It's so much fun. The music is my favorite part.
It's a gorgeous game, amazing music, and kind of heart-wrenching in ways.
Remember when everyone was all insane for Shovel Knight? Expect that to be the next couple weeks. As people start to find this game and start to play it, and then have that moment where like, this took this dude 9 years to make, and this is a passion project. You can see that in the game.
Yeah.
I imagine people are gonna immediately jump on this bandwagon very quickly, and everyone's going to be playing it.
Yeah,
And honestly,
game.
you should. You should play it. This isn't one of those games where this goes against everything I firmly believe.
Okay.
Don't
Alright.
watch a Let's Play of this game. Don't watch a streamer. Go out and buy it and play the game and enjoy it yourself, because it's that kind of game. It's phenomenal. And I this is one of those times where I'm like, this dude deserves all the praise he's getting.
Mm-hmm.
So just
sure.
go get it. It's pretty cheap. And
Yeah.
it's a fun game.
For those who don't know, what does Owlboy consist of?
Owlboy is a platformer where you play a little owlboy, and the mechanics are it's a lot of like you flying around, and then you can pick up different characters, and depending on what character
Items, like you can lift stuff out of the ground. Yeah.
and depending on that, like your abilities utilizing that other person change. It's very fun. It's really clever. So, and the world is so cool, and
Is it Five Guys? Did Five Guys make it, or was it? Look, the legends I heard is one dude, but if it's Five Guys, whatever. It's still super impressive.
They still spent a decade on it.
Yeah,
right?
it's super impressive that the result is a game that is beautiful and control-wise, because this is for the fact that you're flying around, it's still kind of a platformer.
yeah.
You're going around, you're excuse me, moving through different areas, solving these little puzzles, spinning to unlock certain things, dropping people. There's so many different ways to solve these little puzzles, and it's so well put together that it's like criminal to not try it, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks gorgeous.
Yes.
You can just have a look at the pixel art and say, well, one, this is not a generic style of pixel art. This is a fairly unique style of pixel art with a ton of detail in it. It's really beautiful. I've heard the music is excellent as well. But in terms of gameplay, it's kind of Metroidvania-esque, right? Certain things to get through certain doors, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's I think it's the charm of the game. I'm trying to find the right word, but it's like a very charming game. Mm-hmm. Everything about the characters is charming. Like when you first meet characters in this world, even like a character as simple as Mandolin, the girl who just plays a little mandolin, you're just like, everything about you is super charming.
They all have like gestures and things about them where you're like, oh.
A great example is every time Getty, who is your first guy you meet, every time he says something like is very heroic or he cheers you on, Owlboy, and you have to be paying attention to Owlboy because it isn't like really like over dramatic, but he does like this like hands to the side,
like,
giant smile,
yeah,
and it's so
cute.
cute, and you're just like, the detail that went into that you may not even notice that you did it really quick. You're just like, that's special about this game.
Yeah.
There's a life to it, and it's more than just go and move this block to that thing to open a gate.
Yeah.
There's stuff going on in this world. There's characters that you're like, even bad guys, you're like, all right, you're kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Even if it's kind of tropey where it's like, we're the bad guy, owls, right? It still has this like really nice feel to it. I can't ever say anything bad about this game. Mm-hmm. Like, and some people are like, well, it's not as good as Shovel Knight. It's phenomenal. I don't care what you say.
Yeah,
It's also
great.
it's not the same game as Shovel
I was
Knight
gonna
either.
say they're not the same game either, so why bother comparing them? Just enjoy a fucking video game, guys. Goddamn.
Oh yeah, and the music. Shut up if you won't be humming it the rest of your day. The rest of the day you'll just be like walking around humming the music to it. It's really good, and it definitely. There's some games where you play it and you have that flashback. You're like, I remember being 8 years old, 11 years old, 13, whatever, sitting on like a crappy couch in the basement playing on a Super Nintendo and falling in love with the game for the first time. And it has that feel.
It does have that feel, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's great.
Cool.
10 years were not wasted, y'all.
Yeah.
It turned out great.
Very awesome.
I started a game on my phone. My computer at home died.
Oh, Dukes.
I know. So, I started a game on my phone called The Trail.
Oh, Molyneux.
The Trail?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep. He's not dead.
He's not
22
dead.
cans are still around.
Made a game called The Trail.
Yep.
The game starts off with you landing on a new world, essentially, and you have nothing. and the game is on. I want to say that it's on rails. I don't know if that's the right term, but basically you determine like how fast or slow you walk, but where you walk you don't get to control.
Okay.
And as you go along the game, you find and grab supplies, and the only time that you stop is when you hit a campfire, and you have to not use all of your energy before you've hit that campfire or you'll pass out. So you have to be kind of specific about, like, if you run, that's fine, but you're using a lot of energy, like, be sure that you have enough energy to be able to run, or you can just kind of leisurely walk and know that you'll be fine, but maybe it'll get dark. And then when you hit a campfire, anybody who's at the campfire can craft things or trade things. So you're taught at the very beginning, like, you can only grab a certain type of item, and then the game's like, cool, well, now you can craft this. So you craft it, and then you're given an opportunity to put that crafted thing on, like, a trade wheel. And I'm trying to think of how to describe this. You get, like, a strip, and wherever you put your item on the strip, that's how long it'll exist in trade. So you can be like, I don't want anybody else to be able to buy this thing. I just want to, like, get rid of it and get some money.
By this is the multiplayer aspect, is it?
Yes.
There's other people buying this stuff.
Yeah. So multiple people can be at this campfire, and then you can, like, make things, put them on this strip, and then it slowly sort of disappears. So that's the amount of time that you have to buy things from other people, or it'll just get destroyed and you'll get a certain amount of money for it.
Okay.
It's hard to describe, I'm sorry. But yeah, so I've mostly just done the, like, beginning part of this game, but it teaches you how to make more and more stuff. Eventually you're able to learn things that are from specific professions, so you can be, like, an adventurer or a hunter or a lumberjack, like, things like that, and you can decide, all right, I want to mostly learn hunter abilities, but you don't have to only learn from one. You're not, like, picking a profession and you have to stick with it. It's just, like, it kind of delineates it depending on how it's going to assist you. And then apparently, eventually, you'll be able to sort of settle and, like, build buildings and do things like that. Where I am right now, it's just walking from campfire to campfire and learning how to make different things and trading. But it's interesting.
It's a free-to-play game, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's that business model then? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't gotten to a point where the game's been like, you could also buy this. That hasn't happened.
Interesting.
So, I don't know. It's very charming, though. It's a charming game.
It's got it's had relatively positive reception. I know it soft launched a little while ago in a few different countries, and people was like, yeah, this seems pretty good. It's an interesting situation, because when Molyneux makes something, it's usually there's a lot of talking about it prior to it coming out.
Yeah.
This seemed to sneak up out of nowhere.
It just appeared.
And frankly, that's probably for the best, considering what's happened with his last few projects. I don't mind if he suddenly decided to go silent and just make things great, you know?
I honestly, at this point, with how people receive him just as a person, I think that would be his best bet. To just, like, make games and just float them out there and not make a big deal out of it, you know?
I wonder how much brand value sort of the Molyneux name still has. I mean, I still think there's an element of curiosity when it comes to anything he makes, even if he does have now a rep of disappointment, over promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and I think it's got worse for him, because it wasn't just overpromise and underdeliver like it was with games like, say, you know, to some degree Black and White and Fable and such like that. It was not deliver at all.
Yeah.
You know, with Curiosity and with Goddess, they were both utter dog shit. And there's a point where you stop forgiving him for being, okay, he's just too idealistic. And now it's like, no, actually, you just make shit games now.
Yeah, no,
you know?
he's just
Fable
the worst.
wasn't bad. Black and White they weren't bad games. They maybe were just not the game-changing, incredible game of the year, all years kind of things that he claimed they would be.
Right.
Yeah. So, sure, we'll see. We'll see what he comes up with.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give that a try. As I say, it looks alright, you know? It does have a particular charming look to it, certainly. Very stylized.
It does, yeah. So I would say, again, it's free. Check it out if you want to. The game that I played that isn't free...
Uh-oh.
Oh, paying money for video games?
No. is a music game called Deemo. Deemo.
Okay.
And I grabbed it because in the image it seemed like it was going to be a mixture of like tapping music games where it's like you have to tap on rhythm and, you know, swipe whatever it asks you to do, along with sort of this weird sweet version of Slender Man's story.
Okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah, in all of the imagery, it's this really tall, faceless man in a black suit who plays the piano, and then a little girl. And I was like, what is this? Because it reminds me of Slender Man.
I was going to ask you, what made you pull the trigger on a purchased app? And it sounds like that would do it for me.
Yeah, I was like, this looks intriguing because the screenshots were either here's what the musical part of this game looks like, or it was this little girl walking around this world that she obviously doesn't belong to. And I thought, oh, that might be kind of a cool mixture of this creature that plays the piano and this girl that is there for some reason and sort of figuring out why. So I decided to play it, and the world aspect of it is cool. Very, very small and simplistic. You run into like a chest that you can't open and stuff like that. This girl literally drops from like the ceiling, like from nowhere, and she doesn't know why she's there. This tall thing that plays the piano cannot talk to her but can play the piano. So when you're doing the musical parts of the game, you are playing as him. I will say, the first 2 songs that you can play in this game, beautiful piano pieces. And I was like, awesome. And then it fucking takes a nosedive into songs that are not good. Like, I don't think the songs that are just piano are beautiful, but then they have all of these songs that have really iffy vocals. And yeah, and that was kind of a
really iffy vocals.
Really iffy vocals.
I'd rather not hear you sing.
Well, I think they were trying to make it like, oh, well, he's playing the piano and maybe the little girl is singing with him. But there are some songs that have like a boy's voice, and I don't know where that voice is coming from. And they're not, like, it took a turn into songs that I didn't find enjoyable to listen to over and over and over again while trying to, like, beat.
Well, and that's how a rhythm game is going to live or die, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. So the piano song's great, but they're not all just piano songs.
Right.
And I think that if it had been, it would have kept with that quaint feeling instead of suddenly feeling like I was in a really weird alternate version of DDR.
Right.
That I didn't want to be in, you know? But the game, like, the characters and the area that you kind of, like, walk around in and try to figure out why you're there, cute. Songs left me wanting, and that's the major part of the game, right? So that was kind of disappointing.
Everything you described this game is like, there's a creepy Slender Man and a girl trapped in a world. You're like, it's real cute. The beginning's very cute.
I said that he's a cute Slender Man.
I don't know. None of it sounds cute to me. I want it to be scary. I want it to be a horror game.
Come on, game, open up.
Like a musical horror game.
Okay, because seeing the loading screen definitely doesn't look terrifying.
Yeah, it's not.
What?
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, it's kind of like cute. It's like if I was a deviant artist and I want to make cute Slenderman.
Yeah.
Oh, you can kind of see him.
Yeah, I can see him.
Yeah, he's sort of adorable, right?
Sort of adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just like, he just wants to play. Look, he just wants to play the piano.
That you definitely can't see.
You can't see it. Can't see it, but yeah, it's cute, and I wish that the music was better. That's my final feelings on that game.
I've played a bit in the Infinite Warfare multiplayer now.
Oh yes.
Oh,
how's that doing?
Did the COD stuff. I mean, it's basically the same as last year's. I mean, honestly, I haven't touched the single player yet. There's been a pretty good assessment of the single player. I think a lot of people seem to think it's pretty damn good, and it has a decent amount of replayability with its YOLO mode. Jesus Christ.
Oh no!
Well,
what?
I mean, it's an acknowledgement, along with the the Weed 420 like things that you can put on your guns. That game, despite being an M-rated game, is marketed to 13-year-old boys. I mean, there is no question about that. Although they do have another mode which is much more interesting, which is more like a Ranger mode from the Metro 2033 and Last Light games, where resources are super limited. You have to collect helmets to protect your head, otherwise you instantly die from a headshot. But the helmets wear down, and eventually you have to replace them. And there's like a lot of resource management stuff in that mode, which sounds really cool. Plus, you can upgrade. There's a real flight system in it where you have a space fighter, and you can upgrade it and you can customize it throughout the game because those are real segments. They're not just on rails. Like, there's actual real, like, space combat, which is neat.
That's cool.
But in terms of the multiplayer, I mean, it is very much like the last one. There's no doubt about it. The movement system is extremely similar to Black Ops 3. So you have the wall run, like you had in Black Ops 3. You have a little bit of a sort of double jump with your jetpack. You have a little bit of parkour. You can do a slide. And you can... It never was as good as the way Titanfall kept its momentum going with movement, and it still isn't. Mm-hmm. It feels fine, but they really went hardcore with the movement system in Advanced Warfare, like, which was 2 games ago, where they did a bunch of like air dashing, side dashing, back dashing, like you could dash, all over the place. That to me was great. That was a game changer because it really changed the nature of the game. It let you really focus on your skill being as opposed to just like, I spotted this guy first, so he's dead. Mm-hmm. Like, you could, because of your movement, dodge bullets and like do some really cool shit.
Right.
They pull back on that probably because of the console players. Because on a keyboard and mouse, doing a lot of that fine trickery, pretty easy to do. But on a controller, doing the really fine movement and the really fast dashing backwards and forwards wasn't working out for them. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people complained about it. The irony, yes, of people saying COD never changes, but when it does, people complain.
Right.
But with this, it is super, super similar. The rig system is a slightly expanded version of the exosuits and specialists they already had in Black Ops 3. So you have the usual 10-point pick system where you can have, if you want an attachment for your gun, that's 1 point. You want a perk here, that's 1 point, blah, blah, blah. But your so-called rig, there are currently 6 of them, I think, in the game. It gives you a slight change in stats. So there are some that move a bit faster, some that are a little bit tougher. They all have a weapon, which is like an ultimate that they build up over time, which is, again, like the specialists in Black Ops 3 had this too. So I was playing Synapse, who is a robot that you control, and he's got 2 big sort of suppressed machine guns in his arms.
Okay.
Once he charges up to 100%, he can activate those. But you also have a passive that slots in as well. So in his case, it was every kill you get briefly increases your speed. So that's like the extra part of the rig, which is a little bit more than what specialists were, but it's still very much like same old, same old. I will say, like, weapon variety this time around, there are some kind of weird weapons, which is good, because the further they go into the future, the more they get away from M16s and AKs, etc., which
right.
I think is probably good for the series for the time being, because we play with those way too much anyway. But aside from that, it's the same business. There's no doubt, for multiplayer anyway. I'm not going to talk about the zombies in Spaceland because I haven't checked that out yet. The big difference is the weapon variants and the crafting system now. So they've gone for a loot thing where there's like common weapons, uncommon, rare weapons, epic weapons, etc. And they have traits, some of which are fairly bizarre. Like, there's one which changes your gun so that headshots no longer count, but dick shots do.
Yo!
You shoot someone in the dick, it
now
counts as
that's
a
my
headshot.
kind of COD.
Oh my god.
And that actually, as much, the dick shot thing sounds ridiculous, but the idea of really changing the way that you're supposed to use the weapon and sort of throwing the conventions out the window and making you learn a new skill instead of, I've learned to shoot sort of above the head, blah, blah. Now you have to do different stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they come through supply drops. There's some weird controversy surrounding that. I'm not entirely sure how true it is. Because before launch, people were like, this game's going to be pay to win because there are certain weapons you can only get from supply drops. And people say, oh, that's microtransactions. I can't find a way to buy supply drops for real money in the game.
Right.
Like, so far, outside of the fact that if with the season pass you get like 5 free crates or whatever, they're still the same crates as the ones that you earn in-game for keys. After every match, you get keys, and you beat missions, you get keys. With a certain number of keys, you can either open a common supply drop or a rare supply drop, which will usually be like, it's got camos in it, emblems, and probably a gun variant of some sort. which is level restricted, and there are minor stat changes between those, and obviously with those different characteristics, those different attributes to it, with like, you know, the dick shot thing, and there's a lot of like less crazy stuff that makes your weapon, you know, variant a little bit different. But then, right now, you can't buy weapons for real money. The thing I think people are assuming is that they will eventually let you do that, because they did that with Black Ops 3.
Right.
Right now, they don't at all let you do that. And there is a crafting system whereby you can take the shit that you don't want, break it down into salvage, and then build something you do want with it. And there are various like rarities of weapons and stuff like that. And it doesn't seem like that's very random, because there is a system where it's like, you can get the previous version of this and then upgrade to the next version, etc. The concern that I have with the system right now is that the matchmaking is fucking garbage. It dumps you in with people who are 40, 50 levels higher than you. Now, that was already a problem in previous COD games because of unlocks. You know, maybe there's a certain gun later on that just happens to be a bit better because that's how the system works. Or, you know, you want a couple of combinations of different add-ons for the gun to make it work properly. Maybe a gun doesn't work properly unless you have the foregrip and the angle grip and the suppressor and the quick fire and all that shit. Yep. And you don't have that from the start. And that's always been a bugbear that I've had with it. Because it's like, I'm already worse than these guys because they played more than me, and now you're compounding it. At least I can pick up the weapon off the ground if they die, so at least there's that, but...
Wasn't there like a big hullabaloo because Microsoft said that the Windows 10 version was going to have crossplay, and it doesn't?
And it doesn't. Yeah, that's unbelievably shit. Like, if you're going to buy this game, don't buy it on the Windows 10 store at all. You can't play with Steam players.
There are lots of people getting refunds.
Yeah, because there's no player base as a result. There's plenty of people playing on Steam. It's certainly not like a massive blow-away success, but, you know, it's got I think 15 to 20,000 people playing like any given time. That's more than enough. But the problem is, again, with that matchmaking system, I'm getting dumped in as a level 6 with like level 50s, 60s, and these guys have epic and rare weapons already that have certain traits that I don't have access to. So that's the problem with that sort of loot system, as it were, that you're going in and it's already, the scales are tipped in their favor. It's already unfair. And with the time to kill in that game always being so low, there's definitely concerns about that. I don't mind that they've decided to try and innovate and really vary up the weapons. Great. But if you're matching me up with people that have way better shit than I do, that shouldn't be happening. You should be putting me in there with people who have the same level shit as I do, or at least around that.
Right.
So that's kind of the big problem I've got with it. Outside of that, it plays pretty much the same as Black Ops 3, which was fun enough for a while. You know, it's all right. The weird thing that I've played all 3 of the big shooters from this month. My final conclusion on them is fucking none of them innovate. None of them. And that includes Titanfall 2. Despite all of the fucking articles that have been written, like, you know, this is, people have been using, like, Combat Evolved and stuff like that. No! Did you not forget that game happened last year as well? And it was, in many ways, extremely similar. Yeah. That was the combat evolution. Titanfall 1 was when they did that. Titanfall 2 is an iteration. Titanfall 2 is another shot at it, and yeah, it's an improvement. It's not innovative, because they already did this game last year. And Battlefield 1 isn't innovative either, as I've explained for God knows how long, and neither is Infinite Warfare's multiplayer. So the 3 big shooters in this month, none of them really innovate in any real way. And I imagine as a result, I'm probably not going to be playing any of them by the end of this year. Because they just won't keep my interest.
I'll see what COD's single player's like. I think that's where I'm interested in that. I don't know anything about the rest of it, but I think the single player story's got me. Everything I've seen so far, I'm like, all right, that looks cool. But I've had no interest in playing multiplayer.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, that's not for me. But that's the way most of the multiplayer just FPS games are right now. Just not for me.
Yeah. We've had a year of good campaigns, you know. Titanfall 2's campaign, I still haven't got to the part where it's actually made me say this is good, but everyone's saying, yeah, it was a great campaign. And a lot of positive stuff about Infinite Warfare's campaign as well, but Battlefield 1 sucked. But, you know, we had Doom this year and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been a good year for that. But in terms of multiplayer shooters, the one that changed the game was Overwatch.
Yeah.
This year, not any of the big dudes. And that was much earlier in the year. And now we have Paladins and other games that are sort of springing that. It's like the hero shooter genre, as it were, is the one that's starting to rise now.
Yeah.
And the regular multiplayer that we've seen in the last 5 years may be starting to stagger and stagnate. And there may be a drop in interest as a result.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Maybe we'll get an increase in creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. You know, we have had quite enough of that, I think. No doubt.
Because here's the crazy thing. Everything we got this year, a World War I shooter. A game where you're driving around in giant mechs. A game where you're having space battles, like shooting on a ship. The concepts are there.
Yeah, for sure.
Those are badass concepts, and you know somewhere there's a guy who's like, we're gonna make the best damn game ever, and then they just slip it like as a coat onto a thing that already exists.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what sucks.
Yeah.
It's not the concepts, the ideas are awesome. It's what we get. It's what they wrap those ideas around rather than creating something new based on those ideas.
Yeah.
And that's been the big problem the last month or so, I would say.
Yeah, their investment to theme is relatively superficial, and Titanfall obviously has the strongest one because it has their own original universe, but again, it's not a breath of fresh air to me because I played the same game last year that they made.
Right.
Certainly if you never played Titanfall, then absolutely pick up Titanfall 2. It will be a breath of fresh air to you, but there is a 2 on the end of it. Yeah. We can't ignore that. You can't just pretend that the last one didn't exist to claim that this one is suddenly innovative. It's not. The last one was. This is 95% of that ideas with 5% of them changed. That's not innovation, that's iteration.
It's the stuff we should have gotten in the first one.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah, I mean, except they're missing like one thing. It's like co-op horde mode, which makes super sense in that game, isn't in the base game.
Right.
That'd be just get your friends and get mechs and then kill other mechs that like just keep coming at you.
I believe that was added into Titanfall 1 as frontier defense, and you would have thought that would have been part of the base package. And it's not. And that's a really weird oversight to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess this is not the year for FPS.
No.
At least not if you want big changes anyway.
And that's, I think, the problem is that when everyone saw the trailers at E3, when everyone saw things that are coming, they expected those big changes.
Yeah.
People expected something that would change the game, and everyone was thrilled by it. And you saw the passion for Battlefield 1. And then the game came out and was like, thanks again for effing everyone over, guys. It sucks. It sucks.
I mean, I don't think it's... I mean, outside the campaign, which definitely sucks, I don't think the multiplayer is bad, but it's not good. It's not great. I've played it before.
Right.
You know, it's 98% Battlefield and 2% World War One. And the changes they did make are silly. Like, they don't enhance the game. Like, I still think Behemoths is a fucking stupid idea. It sounds great on paper until you suddenly realize that that's just a giant moving gunboat of death that means that you're spending more time on the spawn screen until it eventually gets blown up. The interaction with it, in my opinion, isn't fun. To be honest, like, even like doing anything with it, like sitting in a turret on that fucking train, that's not interesting. Oh, it's a turret. Great. We haven't seen that before.
I would love to know stats for those based on comebacks, because the losing team gets those. And in games that I've played, I've never had a game where the losing team made the comeback based off of that.
No.
Like, the winning team eventually just overcomes the multiple deaths, because that doesn't really affect anything. They overcome multiple, and then they're like, all right, now we're back in this, we're going to destroy you again.
It drags the match out
That's
longer.
exactly right.
It is designed as a rubber band mechanic to make the matches seem closer than they really are.
Yeah.
And it has resulted, actually, in quite a lot of that. I have finished an unbelievable amount of Conquest games where it's been 1,000 tickets on the winning team and like 996 or 998. And I imagine that that component is a real part of that, because you just get that part of the game where the other team's dying a lot more as a result of the presence of the thing.
Yes.
So that allows, even though that's not capturing objectives, assuming the rest of your team's sensible, that means that it's clearing out a bunch of enemy players to make it easier for you to take the objectives.
Yeah. If anything, it's helping the winning team, because the losing team's like, oh, let's all get in this thing and kill them. It's like, yeah, okay, do that.
Yeah,
Stay out of our way.
I'm going to avoid your thing entirely and go to the other point over the other side of the map.
Yeah, we only need 3 of these guys. Have fun. You take the other ones. It's a weird. I don't know, man. I wish I had the passion. Like, I was into Battlefield 4, and that's not even the best Battlefield game. And I was into that game.
Although it might be now, after the amount of development they've put into it. You know, that's a really good game now.
Yeah.
I was super into it, and I just can't get into this one, and it sucks because it's the one I want. I wanted it to be the best one out of all of them.
Yeah, I really want to really take that formula and change it around, because there's been too much of that, and really they've had no excuse either, because they had 3 very different themes, and even if you go like back to Bad Company 2, they still had Battlefield Vietnam as sort of the expansion pack for that, so that's kind of like 4 different themes and eras, and with the cops and robbers thing in particular, there was so much potential with Hardline to be way different than it was, and it's like, what? This is just Battlefield. Except apparently the police have, like, I mean, it's weird, like, saying that now. It's like, oh, apparently the police have military vehicles. Oh, actually, they do now. Shit, fuck. But, back then it was like, oh, what? Why do they have helicopters with miniguns?
Right.
That's not a thing, There's so much that could have been done with that game that wasn't. Oh, that was a fucking shame. And BF1's the same deal. I think people will definitely get tired of it, because the modern desire for constant progression and always unlocking new shit, BF1 really doesn't do much of that. There's not a lot of guns. It doesn't take you long to get the ones that you want. There are basically no add-ons for any of the guns because it's World War One.
Right.
I mean, I think I've got almost everything I need or want in 20 hours of play. So the rest of it is just... I mean, I guess I could unlock this gun, but I'm not going to use it,
Right.
because I've already the guns are already similar enough that I found the one that works the best, and I'm just going to stick with that. So, I think that unless they do they are dropping some content. They said they're adding a new free map, they're adding a new mode, which is an awful idea, called Fog of War, because the game wasn't hard enough to see shit in already. They're making a mode where there's a permanent fog across the map. And your view distance is even more reduced. The only reason I like that idea is it'll probably fuck snipers over. But outside of that, it's like, dude, this game is already can't see shit, the video game.
Hopefully
it already has way too particle effects, way too many explosions and sand in your face and shit.
Driving would be impossible.
Uh-huh.
So that's gone. So it's everyone on foot, running around trying to shoot each other. I imagine it'd be good for a laugh, but not good for something to play all the time.
No, you get very sick of that very, very quickly.
Yeah.
No, whoever you are. Yeah, very, very sick of that very quickly, I think, which is unfortunate. But I'm very interested to see where we'll be at the start of next year in terms of which of those games has managed to retain, if at all. Maybe one of them ends up having a Rainbow Six Siege-like surge, because Siege actually has more players now than when it launched. That's fairly rare. With how competitive a lot of multiplayer premium games are, usually you see there's a fall-off, and it'll keep falling and keep falling. It'll maybe even out. You don't usually see a premium $60 game this far after launch actually have a bigger multiplayer player base.
Right.
And Siege has that because they've done such a good job with support of that game.
What is Siege's numbers?
All I know is they were better than launch. Like their launch was a problem. The thing is that the problem is, of course, the game's on Uplay as well, so we can't just go and look at Steam Spy and figure that out, because a lot of that stuff's also done on Uplay.
Right.
But Ubisoft has been repeatedly saying that their player base is now bigger than launch, and a lot of that comes down to the fact on launch the netcode was real shoddy. There were a lot of hackers. There were problems with that game.
Playing together was real tough.
Yeah. Oh, that was a nightmare too. Yeah, even just getting in a group via the awful multiplayer matchmaking interface was awful.
Right.
But it's got a hell of a lot better. They've added a ton of new content, new maps, new modes. They're right now adding an awesome system for caliber-based wall destruction. So the caliber of your gun's bullet affects the size of the hole you put in the wall.
Oh, cool.
Super cool. So that not only that changes the meta, because most people have not been taking heavier weapons because there's no point, But now, now that actually makes a difference. But it's also just such a cool idea. Like, they went in such a radical direction with the wall destruction and things being such a big deal, and the idea of the breaching being such an exciting experience, that it stood up against Counter-Strike, even as a $60 game. People have actually said, oh, this game actually does do something different. It really is worth playing instead of something, because there's nothing quite like it.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I usually don't like games where you die and then you're stuck watching the rest of the round. Siege, it's exciting. It's exciting to watch my team, because I'm rooting for them, because it's such a tense game. And you really can have that one guy who sneaks around and gets all three, and it's really awesome. And yeah, so all of those cool little ideas, like, hey, you got to watch the cameras. Oh, you got to figure out where the cameras are so you can take them out. You can support people with that. You send your drones in first to check things out. Those are all great, massive innovations that no other game has done.
Yeah.
So, to me, maybe it'll be Siege that comes on and just demolishes everything by the end of next year, because it is growing and it is doing well. I'll probably spend the end of my year going back to that. Instead of playing, I probably won't be playing more Battlefield 1, probably won't be playing that much more COD, maybe Titanfall 2, but yeah, maybe Siege. So there you go.
Yeah, I remember last week we looked up games that come out the rest of the year, and there's not much.
There ain't
So
much.
there's time to go back and play a game you missed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two major releases for me are going to be Dishonored 2, obviously.
Friday.
Yeah. And we've got, I think at the start of December, we have Space Hulk, which I've been looking at for a while. They've shown some footage. They haven't, let people play it, which is obviously a little bit concerning, but if they make that game good, that's going to be the next Left 4 Dead for a while.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think people have a desire for that. Vermintide did really well, even though it had its problems. And we haven't had many... We've built this game for 4-player co-op from the ground kind of games this year.
Right.
So I think there's definitely a space in the market for that. So for me, yeah, Space Hulk Deathwing is really high on my agenda of I've got to play this, and I hope it doesn't suck.
Is there a Krampus game yet?
I don't believe so.
Somebody should make that.
Yeah.
Where a bunch of people play kids, and then Krampus is trying to find all the kids.
Yo, there was actually an indie game that I wanted to play, but I couldn't get to film properly for Christmas last year. That was a game where you played as Krampus and you went around collecting kids. It was a platformer.
Okay.
And you had to get the bad kids, but not touch the good kids.
Right.
Or else you'd lose health. It was kind of fun. It was a really stupid, really short indie game, but I'm down with you.
Yeah.
I think it'd be amazing, a fun, stupid Krampus. Yeah.
We should probably also mention Tyranny, which is kind of flying under the radar of
Tyranny.
people right now.
Yep.
I think I do have review code for it. Is it out?
They've been hyping it up. I don't know if it's come out yet.
Out yet. Tyranny release date. I'm pretty sure I have review code for this sitting.
2016.
Yeah, it's coming out. There's within the next few weeks.
November
I already said
10.
November 10th. That's 3 days. 3 days time.
Sick.
Yeah, and Tyranny, for those who don't know, is the next game by Obsidian, and it is a sort of a traditional sort of Planescape Torment Baldur's Gate-esque RPG, but the wrinkle in it is that you are playing as the bad guys in a big way. The war between good and evil is done and evil won.
Yeah.
Now you're part of the evil regime. But of course there are different ways to be evil,
Totally.
You don't have to. You don't have to be. It reminds me of KOTOR when you were saying, the sort of unlimited power kind of level of evil and the more pragmatic evil. Apparently it's supposed to be a real sort of experience of exploring what different kinds of evil can be from certain perspectives.
Yeah.
I hope that my level of evil that I intend to be results in everyone rising up against me, and I get to kill them all. It's how dare you, Force Lightning?
Can we all play this game and then report back and be
What our levels of evil are?
Yeah, here's how I went about
Chaotic,
evil.
full chaotic.
Yeah, that's I'd love to. I don't know if I'll have the time. I hope so, because these are
Massive
big
Massive
RPGs.
games.
They're
Yeah.
always huge, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the screenshots look great though. Pillars of Eternity obviously was a phenomenal game, and Tyranny will hopefully be as good. It's just great to see that Obsidian have found a new lease of life almost.
Yeah.
Paradox is publishing it. Great. They're awesome publishers. So hope to see that. So I think, like, what else is there for the rest of the year now? Things are starting to wind down.
Yeah.
I don't. Final Fantasy comes out end of the month.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 15, yeah.
And then, I remember we looked this up and we were like, there's really not particularly much. December was pretty empty.
Yeah.
A lot of the sports games are all starting to come out for the holidays.
Right.
Other than that, I don't know. I don't know if there's much. Oh, yeah, all the way down.
All the way down to December.
Owlboy, which came out.
Yeah,
Owlboy.
War Games for Warfare, all that stuff. A bunch
Fantasy
of
15.
remasters. The Final
Watch Dogs 2.
Yeah, we keep forgetting that
yes.
exists.
The Last Guardian. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Pokemon, yeah. Steep for those who care. I mean, that's that's the new extreme sports franchise from Ubisoft. I personally don't really care too much about that.
The
Dead
Crew,
Rising.
that card game.
The Crew's already out, right? That was out a couple of years ago.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, this is the new. This is
is it a new one?
Ultimate Super Edition.
Oh, okay. Oh, calling all units, so it's expansion, I assume. I don't know if anyone's still playing The Crew. Dead Rising 4.
Yeah.
Although I don't like the look of it, I'll be honest. I still think they've taken it in the wrong direction. It's just a stupid open world horror hack slash now. Yeah. So, yeah. The fucking timer is DLC, for God's sake. What are you doing?
But I mean, just looking at it, most of it is
Yeah, I mean, pretty
like
much
the Amnesia collection. Like, all right, sure,
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, Watch Dogs 2 still has the potential to surprise people.
It does.
I don't have massive
Whether or
expectations.
not people
but-
are going to give it the chance to surprise them, I'm not convinced.
Well, I think one of the things that, I don't know. I don't want to give any benefit of the doubt to Watch Dogs. I'm just impress me. I'm not going to be like, I'll see what it's like.
Yeah.
Impress me before I go in, because the last one was jank.
Yeah, I'm not going to go in with a grudge from the last game. I'm just going to say, all right, okay, this is a clean slate for you to maybe execute what you promised in the first place.
Yes.
And not just be Grand Theft Auto with a few magic powers. And hopefully also have a protagonist who is not utterly insufferable in every way. You know, I mean, this guy seems insufferable in his own way, but insufferable in an entertaining way, you know. Whereas Aiden Pierce is one of the least likable and least justified.
I was going to use the word likable.
Yeah, what he did is unjustifiable. Like and even then, they still played him off as the good guy, despite the fact that he's actually just a raging asshole. Like, there's no excuse for any of his bullshit, and he's not even that interesting anyway. Whereas, this new kid seems like he might have a bit more of a personality to him.
And I think the side characters in this one are a lot more fun. Like, in the first
they're
one was
goofy.
like...
They're very Mr. Robot.
The first one was like, it's the female hacker, and she's got tattoos, lol, lol, lol. Like, okay, now you have a cast of characters like, this guy has a face
weird digital mask
Yes,
guy.
like, that's interesting
Yeah.
and neat. And it might be cheesy as hell in the game, but at least I'm like, all right, you have my attention. I might come back to check this out.
Yeah. So I hope so. It's that we haven't had a huge number of open world. I think the open world saturation is starting to go down, probably because those games cost a shitload of money to make, and I think
Thank God.
we had quite a few earlier this year that just sort of fell on their face, really, and then obviously like late last year we had a ton of open world games, but it might be good. I hope so. I don't hope for it to fail.
Right.
Watch Dogs was always like a really interesting looking new IP. It just they Ubisofted it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And thankfully now they're moving a bit away from Ubisofting everything and making the same game over and over again in different genres. So we'll see how that works. Hopefully the PC version's also not shit.
When towers are the brand,
Oh god,
that's your brand, that's a problem.
Yeah.
They had radio towers in their car game, for God's sake. The only way it could have been worse is if you tried to drive up them. Thankfully you didn't, but yeah, it's like it was radio towers in the Crew. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? There's basically radio towers for all intents and purposes in Far Cry Primal.
It's true.
A Stone Age game has radio towers for all, basically. Please stop that. Just no.
No, we did not forget to mention South Park.
Because
They
it got
pushed it
delayed.
back.
It got pushed.
Yeah, there's actually been a few games being pushed to 2017.
Yeah.
That being one of them.
Many games have been pushed back.
For Honor has as well.
Yep. There was another one that just got pushed back this week, and I don't remember what it is. Crap. It was a big one, too, and they were like, pushed it back again.
Let me see if I can find anything.
Yeah, South Park, I like how...
15 got pushed a couple of times, but not that far.
Yeah.
Cuphead. got pushed.
Cuphead again got pushed.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, this website is like wrong about half the stuff, but these are like ones claimed like these got hugely delayed. I think Gravity Rush 2 and Persona 5. Yeah, Gravity Rush 2 got pushed to January. Persona 5 got pushed to February. Horizon Zero Dawn.
That's
got
one of the
pushed.
big ones that I was mad about. Yeah.
Yeah. Nier Automata as well. Mass Effect. Andromeda.
Although the trailer we got today was super dope. I don't care that it was like CGI trailer. That shit was hype. I'm like, in.
I don't mind if like one of their trailers is a CGI trailer because it's just cool for world building. It's like cool as long as you just show us gameplay as well on top of that. That's fine.
Totally.
As long as all your shit is in CGI, then that's fine.
Happy N7 Day, everybody. By the way.
Hey.
Indeed. Obviously Zelda.
Yeah.
But that's because of the release of the Switch. Scalebound. I don't even know what the hell's going on with that game.
Yeah, that's one of those things that in concept you're like, that seems fun, but in reality, like, how the fuck would they make that work? Like that looks
and
stupid.
the footage they showed did not inspire confidence. I have to
didn't.
admit. That was very weird. The new Gran Turismo got pushed, and Bloodstained as well is actually now pushed to 2018.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're I guess that's good. They're not going to pull a Mighty Number 9 on it. They actually want to make it good. So. Yeah. Oh, but Below got. Yeah, we don't know when Below is coming out.
we don't know anything.
Yeah, that was supposed to come out this year and didn't.
Dead Island 2. That may never come out.
That's never coming out.
Yeah.
That's done. I think. Probably what was it? Hell Raid as well, which was the game they were making.
Yeah.
Which is a
I
shame
remember
because I
that
really
game.
wanted to play that.
That looks
Which is
really
like hacking
cool.
skeletons, battle, big axes and swords.
Yes.
Yeah. That's fun. Cool. I think that kind of wraps us up because you got to go make some serious. Well, I'd say money, but make some content with some important
serious
people.
content.
Make some serious
content with some important people. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up the show. Thank you very much for watching the podcast, folks, live from the Weeb Den in Cox Towers. And our sponsor this week was squarespace.com/cooptional because any idiot can make a website. Go do that. You should. You should. Go do that. We're about done. Keep an eye on our channels. Streams will be coming over the next few days. All that good shit. And we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye. Yeah.